B. DeMille.
Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up. Just kidding. We're talking about a different Cecil B. DeMille film, a film he directed, a slate, which he won Best Picture for in the year of 1952. Welcome to Picture This. We're back. Chad, how's it going? Welcome. My co-host, Chad Webb. How you doing, man?
It's going great. The year of the year of classics, year of upsets.
Year of upsets, yeah. But it is a year of classics. We're killing two birds with one stone here.
True.
Upset and a classic year. And oh boy, I'm upset. We'll get there.
Because Oh yeah.
52.
When we kind of devised the year of the upsets here, I think you wanted to do it for a few different reasons, but this is one of the big ones.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, and it's not like the most conventional upset here,
right.
But it's like legitimately upset because there's a very big movie that didn't
yes.
even get nominated.
Yeah, it's like everyone has their semantics of what is an upset, and like a lot of people are like, it is statistically when a film has been winning a lot and loses. Yes, but nowadays when we look back at the years like the 1950s, 1940s and stuff, we don't have all the precursors, all the stats to be like that was the front runner. And like statistics say High Noon was the front runner in this case, but like this is an upset in the terms of like the very general conceit of like, I am upset, we are all upset, in just what was not nominated. It's one of those things where upset does not mean statistic in this case, but like genuine emotional feeling, being upset, because spoiler alert, 1952 is the year my favorite movie of all time came out. So, and it's not one of these five. So this is kind of like always been like that kind of, what do you want to call it? Dark. What do you call it? Like that one thing you need to conquer, like the mountain you need to climb. My not my kryptonite, but my white whale, I guess. Yeah, white whale.
Yeah,
my white whale. That was what I knew it was a color, but I was like the black whale, and I was like, oh, black. It was like Black Pearl. Yeah, my Moby Dick. Like this has been my Moby Dick. I haven't watched any of these movies because I was always pissed off. I was like, there's no way these five movies, together or alone, are better than that. Or at least one of them is not. I don't know. I just have had my thoughts. So it's nice to like finally get to put faces to names and actually watch them, to at least now be able to vocalize why I still agree these five movies don't come close to Singing in the Rain, in my opinion. And that's kind of where I'll be interested to talk with you, because I know you love Singing in the Rain, but it's not your number one movie of all time. Right. So you're a little more lenient, but it is going to be really cool to see exactly where we fall on the slate, considering I've already kind of dealt my hand and shown my hand that I am very upset with the omission and the five that were put above it on the pedestal, not necessarily because of them being good or bad movies, just because I don't think they're better than. But we'll talk about it. But Chad, overall, what do you think of this slate? I will really quickly just list them off for y'all, since y'all are probably wondering what they are. The Greatest Show on Earth, High Noon, Ivanhoe, Moulin Rouge, not that one, and The Quiet Man. So those are the five movies we'll be talking about today. But Chad, what do you think of just the slate in general before we get into like the Oscar talk, the upset talk, and of course talking about the five films individually?
I think there was one of these not too long ago that we did, but I feel like the slate overall is a little bit underwhelming, disappointing kind of a deal. I don't feel like there's many in here that I'm like, that's one of the greatest movies. Like that's the best movie. I mean, I haven't seen a ton of 1952 movies.
Yeah.
So it might just be that these were the ones of that time that people were like, whoa, Sans Singing in the Rain.
Yeah.
I do feel like there's at least two that I'm like, yeah, I can see it for those. Okay. And then the other three, I'm like iffy on. So,
yeah,
Yeah,
it's very interesting because like I'm looking at like the other films that were nominated for just like other awards that year, and like the Rashomon thing is weird because like it qualified for some Oscars this year, but then the year before it got the special like international Oscar. So I don't know where Rashomon stands. Either way, they weren't going to nominate an international film.
Right.
But like the movie The Bad and the Beautiful got 6 nominations in like a ton of huge categories, didn't even get nominated. A movie called Hans Christian Andersen, which I'm assuming is a biopic about the author, got 6 nominations, didn't get a Best Picture nom. So it's just really interesting, even though we don't really know about those films very well. Like, Singing in the Rain only got 2 nominations, which is crazy. But even looking at some of the other films, like Ivanhoe only got 3. And like these other movies are getting 6 nominations, 5 nominations. It's just shocking that like this is the best picture crop we came up with, or they came up with. You know, it's just surprising, even though I've never seen The Bad and the Beautiful, but like that movie gets 6 nominations, more than the film that wins, and still can't even crack the top 5. So I don't even know at the time what the attitude was toward the slate, but I imagine like, because they're all the commonality between all 5 of these movies is they're all in the top 10 best box office earnings that year. So maybe it was just one of those years where they were just like, it's the 50s, the war was last decade, you know, we're still in this kind of weird Hollywood classic golden age. Let's just kind of pick all the movies that were popular, that people saw, that people loved. But I would argue Singing in the Rain was also one of those, even though it came out late in the year, so I think it didn't get the box office to crack that top. But I don't know, like even then, like it's just so weird because I feel like that's also a movie that's so like celebratory of Hollywood in a way, or the change of Hollywood and Hollywood history and movie making. So, and we talked a little bit about it 2 months ago with Carly about, you know, this the whole American in Paris thing. Maybe they didn't want to give Singing in the Rain a nomination right after they had just given a Gene Kelly musical to win, you know. But even then, just looking at the nominees we got, like, some of them just don't make sense just statistically in terms of what else was nominated for other things. But it will make for a good conversation, I'm sure, because I think we're both on the same page with the general conceit of the slate.
I mean, it's just, it's also just kind of odd that like maybe it wouldn't feel as like kind of like low for me if we didn't just come off of talking about 1976.
Right.
A great year for Best Picture movie.
Where there wasn't a bad film. You know,
Correct.
The worst film was maybe like the slower, more conventional biopic that was a little, you know, what was Bound for Glory. But even then, we still thought it was pretty good, you know?
So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe you feel different, and we're talking about different movies and stuff like that here too. I don't know, but you know, I'm definitely interested to talk about them. I just don't know how much conversation we're going to have for them.
And it's interesting because I looking at my criticisms for each and every one, the criticisms I think is just that like, I was just a little bored, didn't love it. Like the things I can praise about it, like all 5 movies are shot and like directed by like some of the masters of cinema. So like they obviously look really good, and it's really cool because we're kind of looking at like the B catalog of a lot of these great filmmakers' works. Like these are not necessarily the first works you think of for each filmmaker on the list. Like John Ford, you're not always thinking of The Quiet Man first when you think of John Ford. Same with like Fred Zinnemann, same as John Huston, Cecil B. DeMille, like all these huge names. You know, High Noon would probably be the one exception. Maybe. But it really is very interesting that like these are always kind of like the second or tertiary films you think of when you think of these filmmakers. But I think what's going to be really cool about this conversation also, and I saw your shirt, so I know you're on the same wavelength as me, but 2 of these films have had scenes that we've covered on Picture This in other movies, which is also going to be cool, from the same director, Mr. Steven Spielberg, one of which was his favorite film that inspired his career, the other which is in our favorite Spielberg film, directly replicated on the shirt that Chad is wearing. So it's going to be really cool to like kind of just also talk about it in that sense. Like, what did these films inspire more so than like the films themselves, you know, like what trends did they set, especially with a few of the films. Like I can definitely draw a parallel from one movie to another movie that almost won our Picture This award and stuff like that. But we'll talk about it in a sec. But why don't we set the stage for the history? Because I'd love to know what you have prepared for us today, Chad, in terms of 1952. Aside from Singing in the Rain coming out, which was really the only important thing to happen in 1952, what else happened in 1952?
Correct. Just a little bit that I was able to note. In the U.S., a mechanical heart is used in a human being for the first time. Wow. That's kind of cool. Yeah, the United States Senate ratifies a peace treaty with Japan. This is the aftermath of World War II, I guess, still. The I Love Lucy episode, The Marriage License, was reported to be seen in 10,000 homes, which was the most up to that point. Cool. Also noted that Lucy almost starred in one of today's movies.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Pretty interesting.
Did you find that out when you were researching the movies, or did it say that in the history?
Yeah, I was researching the movies.
Cool. Okay.
Do you want me to say which one?
No, save it for later.
Okay, you have to remind me. I might forget.
Okay. Yeah, I will. At the end, if you don't mention it, I'll remind you at the very end.
There you go. The power of the president to seize private businesses is limited by the U.S. Supreme Court. I don't know if that still applies today, but, you know, we'll see. 50 people are trampled to death in connection to somebody yelling fire in the Basilica of St. Teresa in Venezuela. So don't do that.
No.
The The first woman to single-handedly sail the Atlantic Ocean is Anne Davison. Anne Frank's diary is published in the English language. Netherlands' final 2 executions take place, which exceptions were made for war criminals here, since the Netherlands abolished the death penalty in 1870. And sometimes I wish we could, take a page out of their book, I guess, and abolish it here.
Yeah.
And Canada, where Dylan is currently, premieres television in Montreal, Quebec, where Dill is not currently, when they launched the CBC, Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, I believe that's name.
Wow. I was about to say something, but it would totally go against my contracted obligations for business. But I'll tell Chad afterwards.
Okay.
But it has to do with what you just said. That's very cool.
That was it.
Cool. Who was born in 1952? Who died in 1952? I know one person died in 1952, which is a huge loss, but I don't know if it's the same person we're thinking of. But 1952. Who was born? Who was made?
Births. Unfortunately, Vladimir Putin. Sorry to start it off that way, but
yeah, I guess you can only go up from here.
Maybe we'll see. Maybe. No.
No, I know Harvey Weinstein was also 1952.
There's some good people in here and some not so great people.
I was gonna say, just say Harvey second, so we can skip over it.
Mickey Rourke.
No, okay,
Patrick Swayze. There you go. George Strait.
Okay.
Liam Neeson's or Neeson. Annie Potts. Jeff Goldblum. Paul Rubens.
Okay.
Steven Seagal.
Okay.
David Hasselhoff. Sharon Osbourne. Dylan also might not love this one. Bill Belichick. Christopher Reeve. That's a great one.
Yeah.
Randy Savage. Getting a little bit better here. Floyd Mayweather. John Goodman. Jim Cummings. Taylor's dad, Scott Swift. Paul Stanley. Dan Aykroyd. Christine Baranski. Bill Farmer. Is Bill Farmer goofy?
Gorsh, yeah.
Yeah. Here's another one. Here's the one that I saw. Roseanne Barr.
Okay.
Mandy Patinkin.
Yes.
Another great one. Isabella Rossellini.
Yes.
Alfre Woodard. Chuck Lorre. What's his face from Die Hard? Reginald Val Johnson.
Love him.
Chaz Palminteri. CC Pounder. And Carol Kane.
There you go.
And then
pretty notable people for sure.
I have 3 deaths. I don't know if that was one you were alluding to, but I have King George VI, Curly Howard from the Three Stooges, and the great Hattie McDaniel.
Yes, that was the one I was referring to. First Black Oscar-winning actress. A very notable performer there. I don't think we gave her the award for Picture This that year because it was Judy Garland, Greta Garbo year, which is hard to beat those two. But we love her here. We respect her. We're very happy that she was such an iconic part of Oscar history. That's why I wanted to bring it up, and I'm glad you did. What albums came out in 1952, Chad? I'm sure there were a few, even though we might not be listening to them today.
Yeah, not really. There's well, maybe somewhat. Maybe you. Are you ready for this? Singing in the Rain.
Yes!
Recorded directly from the soundtrack of the MGM Technicolor musical.
I do own it and have sung it and listened to it.
There you go. Bird and Diaz by Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie.
Cool.
Moanin' the Blues by Hank Williams. Billie Holiday Sings by Billie Holiday. The Amazing Bud Powell by Bud Powell. Genius of Modern Music, Volume 2 by Thelonious Monk. La Vie en Rose by Edith Piaf. Unforgettable by Nat King Cole. And Satchmo Serenades by Louis Armstrong. And a second album of Bahamian songs by Blind Blake and his Royal Victoria Calypsos.
Cool. I know Chad has that one on vinyl. I'm kidding. Very, very cool. Great music scene. But before we get to the actual Oscar ceremony itself, Chad, let's talk about the movies in 1952. I'll be honest, I wrote one movie down, and it's the one we've been talking about. It's Singing in the Rain. So I didn't have a list, which is also why, spoiler alert, this is being re-edited because I didn't even have a list because I forgot to even bring it up. So this is a segment we pre-taped, or we taped, and now we're editing back in the episode. So if you saw a little cut on the edit, that's why. Because I didn't write a list because there's only one movie for me that matters that year. That's very elitist and very snooty and stuck up of me, but I don't care. I can be a little
my list is not that much longer. I have 3 movies. Mm-hmm. One I haven't is a notable film that I haven't seen, but I think this can't be right? Let me verify. No, it's not right.
What was it?
Never mind. No, it's embarrassing. I don't want to say.
What was it?
No, I don't want to say.
Snow White?
No. Snow White was in the 30s. Wait, okay.
Well,
okay, you know what? No, it's not. Wait. Okay.
Did it have a re-release?
It's a remake. Okay.
Okay, there you go.
It's a remake. The reason why I was embarrassed because I thought it was like different. It was a remake of The Jazz Singer. And then I was like, this is the early 50s. There's no way we're just getting into talkies now. So
Gotcha.
What? I was like,
no, that's a fair assumption.
I had to fact check. All right, so the remake of The Jazz Singer is on my list, and then we have, and we already talked about one version of this, but an earlier version, Les Miserables, and then the only one that I wrote for Best Picture worthy is Akira Kurosawa's Ikiru.
Nice.
I don't know. I haven't seen it, but he's like one of those great directors.
No, so. My reaction was not to that. It's a fantastic movie. Right. I'm just shocked that that's the only film you wrote for Best Picture worthy in 1952.
I always write something down for Best Picture worthy, and that was the only one that I saw from a director that I was like, he probably made a great movie there.
Okay, so is this the part where you
Singing in the Rain? Of course, other. Of course, Singing in the Rain.
Well, no, you said you only wrote one. I was like, wait, what are you talking about?
I think it's because we've always been talking about it, and then I just went like, of course. So I didn't even think to write it down for some reason.
I mean, I didn't write anything down, so I wrote Singing in the Rain.
Those 2 movies. How about that?
I thought you were pulling a prank on me. I was like,
no.
I thought you were either pulling a prank on me or you were like genuinely not a fan, and this was the moment you were going to tell me you didn't like that movie. And I was like, I'm pretty sure you do. Oh God, the paranoia. I can't stand it.
It's like the time I found out you don't like Forrest Gump as much as you once did.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm like, oh,
it's a long history there. That's for another
we don't
time.
have to get into that.
But yes, let's move on. There's not a lot of like Oscar history in terms of like the actual ceremony, except for the fact this is the first ever Oscars to be televised. So people got to actually watch this Oscars. Yeah, very, very cool. And I think a lot of the story nowadays is like, the Greatest Show on Earth winning and the controversy, because even though Singing in the Rain wasn't nominated, and that's kind of the cheeky like upset of it all. I mean, High Noon was the favorite to win. It was such like this revolutionary classic for so many people. It was such a controversial film as well. This was also this whole year of Oscars took place like during the whole communist thing with the blacklisted writers and all that stuff, which is really interesting as well. So, and we'll talk about that with High Noon as well. But just a very cool like kind of year for Oscars, except it did go for Greatest Show on Earth, which was the highest grossing film of the year. Cecil B. DeMille finally won his Oscar. He's like, for people who don't know, like the first feature-length film was directed by Cecil B. DeMille. He's like royalty, like he is the guy in Hollywood. Like he is what we think of like Steven Spielberg and Scorsese. At the time, that was him. Like, and even more so because he was also like just this big producer, which I guess Spielberg is because of DreamWorks. But kind of like how we talk about like Kevin Feige, like that was Cecil B. DeMille. Very weird comparison there. But this was very much thought of as like his career Oscar because he was old and people thought he might go soon. Which is funny because then a few years later he makes The Ten Commandments, which is much better received, much better movie by many people's standards, and like was a much more bigger favorite to win. But then they were like, we just gave it to him for Greatest Show on Earth, so that didn't win Ten Commandments. So it was just kind of this weird butterfly effect of like, if they had just waited, they would have been able to give it to him for 10 Commandments, but they gave for him for this movie. And then High Noon didn't go away with the Best Picture prize. But just looking at precursors, there's not a lot to look at. Moulin Rouge, the only film nominated for BAFTA. Everything else was snubbed. And then Golden Globes, it was only High Noon and Greatest Show on Earth, which Greatest Show on Earth won. So there was definitely an inkling that it could win, especially because the kind of Cecil B. DeMille career narrative kind of took off. But Quiet Man doesn't get nominated anywhere, neither does Ivanhoe. So I guess those were surprises on the day. Yet Quiet Man does take home the director prize. So John Ford, another big thing is that he takes home his 4th director Oscar. No one's ever gotten 4. I don't think anyone's ever gotten 3. I think John Ford holds a record that will probably never be beat, at least maybe not in the near lifetime that we will be living in. I don't even know. There are very few directors who have 2. Spielberg has 2. Scorsese doesn't even have 2. He has 1. Inarritu, I think, has 2. Cuarón has 2. There's a very small list. Ang Lee has 2, but it really is a slim pickings list that I don't think we'll ever get to 3, let alone 4 in the near future. But John Ford wins his 4th and record-setting Best Director prize, and I don't think he was even there to receive it. I think John Wayne just got up and accepted it for him, because when you've won 4 Academy Awards, you get bored after a while, as we saw with Frances McDormand, I guess, as well. But yeah, that is the history of the year. We can kind of talk about the upset a little bit. We kind of talked about how Singing in the Rain probably wasn't nominated because of American in Paris, and because maybe Singing in the Rain just wasn't as much of a success at the time as people thought, even though it was directly involving the industry. But yeah, High Noon was the predicted winner. It went to Greatest Show on Earth, probably because of Cecil B. DeMille, that career Oscar. It was the highest grossing film of the year. We're going to get into Greatest Show on Earth first, but do you have any thoughts on the upset, or should we just kind of take it film by film and then talk about the upset at the end? How do you want to go?
Well, I was going to say, I imagine somebody will break that Best Director record someday.
Yes. Maybe it'll be you, Chad. You're never too late.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
the director cap on.
35, so
hey,
I feel like some of the best directors started at 35.
You make the supercuts. You edit together your primetime videos. Hey, you never know.
It's coming. It's coming. I mean, Greta Gerwig said, "You got a phone, make a movie." There you go.
Make a movie. There you go. Yeah. Every time we take out our phones, we're making little mini movies. Isn't that crazy when we film things on our phones?
Yeah, I mean, I think we should just get into the movies and talk about the upset towards the end, because I mean, we've already discussed it in multiple picture that. I mean, we haven't discussed this upset. We've only discussed mostly the Singing in the Rain snub.
Right, but we'll talk about it here because this is the film that wins. So let's talk about the Greatest Show on Earth. Chad, tell us about the Greatest Show on Earth, though. Give us some background before we pick it apart and I give my scathing review of it.
The Greatest Show on Earth, directed by Cecil B. DeMille, written by Frederick M. Frank, Theodore St. John, Barry Lyndon, really? And Frank Abbott. Cinematography by George Barnes. Music by Victor Young. Starring Betty Hutton, Cornell Wilde, Charlton Heston, James Stewart, Dorothy Lamour, Gloria Graham, Henry Wilcoxon, Lawrence Tierney, Lyle Betger, Bob Carson, John Ridgely, Frank Wilcox, Brad Johnson, John Kellogg, Julia Fay, and Lillian Albertson, with cameos from people like Bob Hope and stuff like that. And this is the movie where Lucille Ball almost starred as I think Gloria Graham's character.
Okay. Cool.
But I think she was pregnant or she was developing I Love Lucy, and
gotcha.
So just couldn't do it.
Synopsis. That makes a lot of sense.
Synopsis: a closer look into the inner workings of a big top circus, and apparently all of the drama that ensues within the tense walls.
Yes. It's funny you said Lucille Ball was in this. I was hoping for a much more fascinating tidbit, like she was going to play Ivanhoe or something, or she was going to be Gary Cooper's role in High Noon or something. But I get it. Yeah, this is more fitting. I kind of said it earlier. I said scathing review. I'm not going to be that mean just because it is Cecil B. DeMille, and Cecil B. DeMille is a master at his craft, and everything visually going on is always going to look good when he's making it. It's one of those things where even on autopilot, a great master's works are still going to look fantastic. And he very clearly knows his way around a camera. But we're going to run into this a lot in this slate, I think, of just looks great, but I felt nothing. I was bored. I didn't care. And this one, I think there's an extra added problem in the fact that it is a Best Picture winner. So you have that extra, and we always give films grace for this, but it is kind of the thing where I think I'm just acting a little selfishly with my favorite film being the film that doesn't get even nominated, that I'm like, this is the one that wins in 1952. Really, this is the best picture of 1952. But it's also great because like this is the movie that inspired Steven Spielberg to make movies. Like that train sequence is the scene that Steven Spielberg, Sammy Fableman saw in the theater that inspired him to
That's
literally
right.
make movies. And I think that's something really interesting to look at because I think it's a shit movie. But like the fact that it inspired someone to become the greatest filmmaker of all time is just a really cool thing. Like it's almost like it's cool to watch this because you can like put yourself in the shoes of a young Steven Spielberg and see like, Charlton Heston's character. He looks like Indiana Jones. Clocked it, like certain things like that where I'm like, whoa, okay, this makes a lot of sense. Even though you can also say like, he totally like outdid it too. Like Steven Spielberg's made much better train crashes and train sequences and bigger, higher spectacle filmmaker. And he's also a spectacle filmmaker. And I think a lot of it comes from this film. So I think it's like more of an interesting like tidbit of history and what it's done for the art of cinema is obviously so huge because it led to Steven Spielberg making movies. But I also just like watching it. I just, I don't need to see a 2.5 hour ad for a circus. I've been to one, but I also understand maybe audiences at the time who hadn't been to the circus, maybe this was a cool way to like bring it to them at home. Kind of like when you watch like the Taylor Swift Eras Tour movie. It's like, I'm not going to go to the Eras Tour in person, so this is a great way to enjoy it. So maybe there's like also that element of it that I'm just not getting because at the time, I wasn't a kid who's never been to the circus. Now I'm an adult who has been to the circus and thinks the circus is like fine, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just think its main job of like advertising the circus in a way. There might be some other objectives, obviously, just like didn't necessarily hit home for me as someone who wasn't that all interested in the topic. But Chad, what did you think of this one? I know this is a first watch for both of us, but what did you think of this?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sort of on the same page as you. I don't know if like I think this is like maybe as bad as you're painting it necessarily, but I also don't think you're wrong. I think all your criticisms are well founded. It's one where it's like you said, an advertisement for a circus, so it's like just I think like they were part of like the production, like they shot it at that circus, and then they had like real circus performers like actually doing the stunts and stuff in there and whatnot, and it's really long, so it's mostly that, and then they kind of shoehorn in some story, and it's not even really like that great of story. Like the Buttons the clown, like his thing doesn't really go anywhere really. Like it really feels like he doesn't get like a good arc. And then they're basically like talking about like the whole like mercy killings and stuff like that, where it's like euthanasia and whatnot, and they don't even like have like good conversation about that, right? And then the whole thing with like the love triangle and all the stuff with the different people who love different people. I feel like there's no like satisfying like conclusions, where it just feels like it's so shoehorned in, and then there's no like through line for a lot of it, where it makes sense. And so it just feels like they're like, well, we have to have some sort of story to make this an actual movie. And it's almost like maybe it would have been better if you had just made a documentary, if you wanted to show people what the circus is like.
Yeah. And even then, I think it sets an expectation. That's the thing. Like when you see a title, The Greatest Show on Earth, it means one of two things. We're either talking about Breaking Bad, The Greatest Show on Earth, or we're talking about, something that should be grand and spectacular and fantastic. And like, I think when you watch this, at least nowadays, it's like it's just a circus. It's the story isn't at that greatest level. And again, like at the time, maybe it's like really spectacle driven. Maybe people are like amazed by Steven Spielberg, but I just feel like nowadays watching it, like we've seen a circus. Like I feel like you could watch like a video of a circus, like a real circus on YouTube and get the same effect out of it. I think actually adding an emotional storyline to it that really doesn't make sense and is incoherent actually makes it worse, because now it's like, and I look at like Greatest Showman as like this big bloated, kind of corny mess, but at the same time, I'm like, I know what those characters' objectives are. I know what their relationships are, and when they are doing the circus acts, when they're up on trapezes, like there is some tension there because we know there's a connection. Whereas here, it just like it feels empty. It feels like art for the service of nothing, in some ways, But Yeah, like I do agree with you. Documentary could have been like a perfect way to do this, but even then, like nowadays, I don't even think I need to see a '50s circus documentary. You know,
I mean, that actually could be interesting to see like what the circus was like back then. Maybe
right.
I could see like value in that, but like even like back then, like looking at it, like what is the circus generally for? It's for kids, and then they make this movie that's about like murder.
Yeah,
Like
like
clown
Buttons is a runaway, like hitman or something, or like a con man or something, right?
yeah, and like there's the big train crash is like a tragedy. Like a lot of
Yeah,
people are like that's the train for the circus. A lot of people are like dying and stuff like that. It's just like Buttons gets arrested and has to give his dog away.
yeah.
And it's just
He makes
like
some like really weird comment about blackface, which is
yes.
again could be used, like you said about euthanasia, could be used to make a commentary, but
Mm-hmm.
instead it's just like kind of an offhand weird comment joke
Oh,
about it. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
I wrote that down in my notes as well. I was like, the what? I,
Mhm.
I don't know. I just don't get some
Right.
of this. I did write also. Critic Leonard Maltin said, like most of DeMille's movies, this may not be art, but it's hugely enjoyable. I don't even know if it's that. If it's
Right.
that.
Well, and that's the thing. Maybe for audiences at the time, because also there was like a huge tragedy a few years ago before this, where there was a circus tent that like caught on fire and a lot of people died, and it was like
Ooh.
this big tragedy that like people were staying away from the circus. So honestly, you could see this as a way of like getting people to trust the circus again, and like, but then it just becomes like
Hmm.
propaganda. It's like it's okay,
Yeah.
it's safe, come with us. But really, if you think about it, like these wild animals and fire in an open tent, it really isn't a very safe
No.
concept. And there's a reason why it's kind of gone out of fashion because like animals aren't always treated well in circuses, and I think like
Mm-mm.
PETA and like a lot of people have like done a really good job about like trying to advocate for animal rights. But also like clowns are creepy, and like I don't know, I think there's just like the circus was like a bygone thing that like yes there are probably still circus acts, like there's a lot of great like Cirque du Soleil stuff, but that's like very much safe, really well artistically put together shows. It's not just these like guys pitching up a tent and doing these big stunts and stuff because that's just not safe. So in a way, like I get it, they're trying to get people to like trust the circus again and like trust the business, if you will. But it also feels a little dirty in that sense because it's like yeah, there's big tragedy, but like forget about it. It's the greatest show on earth. Come on, come play.
Yeah.
And it's like it's kind of the Dumbo remake idea of like, are we really supposed to be like rooting for these guys? Or are we supposed to like see this as an evil corporation trying to like brainwash us? Like I don't know because I don't know. I don't want to go to a circus after watching this, but maybe people did. I don't know.
Yeah. It's just weird, like how they have like the crazy tragedy stuff that happens to build the story and create the dramatic tension and all that. And then you end with like the upbeat, like we're doing tricks and the show must go on kind of a
Yeah.
thing. And it's just like just a weird kind of tone thing. It's like you could have made like a sweet kids movie with a like nice story about a kid going to the circus, or I don't know, they could have done anything with this and they
Yeah.
decided to do this stuff.
Yeah, and I do, like I said, kind of give more credits like Greatest Showman, which I've given a lot of slack to that movie over the years, and even like something like Freaks, which came out before this, but I know you've seen that film.
Great
Like,
movie.
and that's another thing too, because you're looking at the people in the circus and trying to humanize them. I feel like this film is more about the people outside of the circus that kind of like
Mm,
put it on. Like the circus performers almost feel like just kind of romanticized scene decoration in a way. Like they're there to build the atmosphere and build the like this whole circus vibe, but they're really not the main characters we're following. I mean, like Buttons the clown is that's his name, right? Buttons.
yeah.
There's some trapeze artists you follow, but like otherwise, like a lot of the circus stuff is merely set dressing for other people in the story, and I feel like that's something that Freaks does really well. Is really looks at the very unconventional types and tries to find some humanity in that. And like, there's not really even a coherent story in that necessarily. Oh, my light. But there's not like this really like deep story there, but there are just like base relationships that you can like immediately get invested in. And the messaging is so strong that like, I don't know, there's just a million things you can do. And that's the thing, the circus thing gives you a lot to work with. And I just feel like they just take the cheap road out and they're just like, let's just
Yeah.
film it. And like, it's a spectacle because I'm Cecil B. DeMille and I can make it look great. And the thing is, it looks great, but it's also like, yeah, like I could just watch a really good pro shot of a circus from 2015 and just be as satisfied,
Yeah.
I don't even know if there were circuses in 2015. I mean, there's still circuses everywhere, but I don't know about this
I mean,
extensive.
I went to one when I was younger, I think at the Hippodrome.
Yeah,
But
but like, was it this dangerous? Like, elephants and
I don't
jumping on things.
remember,
Yeah,
but I doubt it. I think they've probably upped their standards.
maybe.
But I don't know. Maybe they haven't. I don't.
Yeah. Um, yeah, but we talked about Buttons a little bit. I mean, like Jimmy Stewart again, one of the most charismatic actors. Somehow they make him dull, and you would think putting like a bunch of clown makeup on him would give him like a lot of room to be like silly and kind of like go for it and do something we've never seen before from him. But the character is very melancholic and kind of
He's a sad
downbeat.
clown.
He's a sad clown, yeah, which is not, I don't know, not as interesting, I don't think. But did you any positives you could throw at it right now? Like we've kind of talked about some of the negatives, but
Um,
aside from
yeah,
obviously the spectacle, but
yeah. Like I said, I mean, it's fun to see. Yeah, the spectacle. It's fun to see the circus stuff. Um, I didn't think that the stories that they were telling, like especially with the combating, what do you call it, acrobats, were I thought that was interesting at times what they were building to, and the guy that like kind of hurt his hand and whatnot, and they were falling in love. I could see like something there, but I just don't think that it was like fully like fledged out and interesting. And like if they had cut it like to like more of like a 2-hour movie or like 100-minute movie, I think maybe it could have been a lot tighter and more palatable, and maybe cut down some of the subplots and things like that. Maybe it could have been a little bit more interesting. So I don't think this is like completely like terrible movie that absolutely no one should watch, but it's one of those things that like I mean, if you're interested, check it out, because I do think it is an interesting snapshot of what the circus might have been like around then. So positive.
I mean, yeah, I'm also thinking like this, even if Singing in the Rain's not nominated, which it's not, I gotta just live with that. But like, I can't see this being better than I don't want to my ranking, but it's hard to find movies in the slate that this is better than. Like it really is. Like I don't know.
Mhm.
Maybe they're just so blown away by the spectacle of it. Like I'm just trying to put myself in that mindset of like maybe they've never seen the circus, and like for them this is like something insane. It'd be like if they were able to film a movie in space using space as an actual like background, and then like we saw a movie where people were in space and like we'd all be like, oh my god, they went to space. And then like 50
Right.
years from now, when like 20 movies a year are made in space, everyone's just gonna be like, that's the one you all went crazy for. And I'm like, yeah, but you had never seen that on screen. That's
Right.
probably the biggest equivalent I could think of. Like, and what do we get? Like Katy Perry in space for like 11 minutes, singing Amazing Grace or whatever. But
Blowing up the
hey,
internet.
I don't know.
Well, I guess I'm wondering because like you're trying to figure out like what the conundrum of the greatest show on earth. I'm like, well, is it worse than Crash?
Yes, I think so. I don't know. It's tough because
They're very different.
I think when we're done with this whole project, we gotta just rank them all. I think it'll be tough.
Rank
I think it'd be
all
really
of
funny.
the
Winners. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
Oh,
is like
that would be fun,
it would be
actually.
controversial for sure because I know there's some winners you love that I hate and vice versa. But I just,
Mhm.
yeah, like this is one that I can't imagine being anywhere outside of a bottom 10 for me of best picture winners. It's just also because of the idea that it's coming out in the same year as what I think is the greatest color film, the greatest film ever made.
Mhm.
But especially if we're looking at like, well, it's a beautiful spectacle. I'm like, so is Singing in the Rain. And I think that's the thing. All these movies you can look at like, well, it's this. I'm like, but Singing in the Rain also has that. And I'm not going to make every discussion about Singing in the Rain, but especially because this
Yeah.
is the film that wins. I'm
I
like,
mean,
I want to find out why this one is better than that.
dude, this is your episode. Like, this is the one that you've been waiting for. This is like
It's my white whale.
like say your shit, okay?
Yeah.
So you're allowed.
Yeah, it's my white whale. I feel like we'll find a year where you're like, how is that not even nominated? And that's like
Right.
you're gonna like die on that. Like maybe when we get to have we done 78 yet? We could do that for Halloween. You can be like,
Halloween.
how did this make it in over Halloween?
Wait,
I don't know. Have we done 78?
I don't think
It's been so
so.
long. I think that's Deer Hunter year, maybe.
Yeah, we haven't done it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then 79 is Kramer, and Apocalypse Now and all that jazz.
Kramer,
Oh my god,
Kramer.
the 70s are so stacked. But the 50s, not as much. Any other thoughts though on Greatest Show on Earth? I think this is kind of where my train of thought ends with it. No, for lack of a better word,
Yeah, I
this is
mean,
where the train derails.
yeah, I think we hit on pretty much everything that this thing covers.
Yeah, glad you saw it in theaters though, Steven. Otherwise, we wouldn't have gotten E.T. and Indiana Jones and all these amazing movies. So, hey, I guess that's the plus for it. Honestly, that is the plus for it. I really think that's the biggest thing that it has given us. And the train sequence, I think, does look very good. But it wins 2 out of the 5 Oscars it's up for. It wins Best Picture and Best Writing. That's it. It doesn't win Director. It doesn't get nominated for any acting prizes. It's also up for Director for Cecil B. DeMille. It's up for Costume Design, Color, and up for Film Editing. So a pretty small crop of nominations for Best Picture winning film. Still wins 2, but it wasn't. They weren't on quite a high at the end of the night. They were obviously won Best Picture, so they might have been. But who was on a bigger high was a movie that won 4 Oscars, double that amount, and it is High Noon. Chad, tell us about High Noon.
High Noon, directed by Fred Zinnemann, written by Carl Foreman, cinematography by Floyd Crosby, and music by Dmitri Tiomkin. Starring Gary Cooper, Thomas Mitchell, Lloyd Bridges, Katie Gerardo, Grace Kelly, Otto Kruger, Lon Chaney Jr., Harry Morgan, Ian McDonald, Eve McVeigh, Morgan Farley, Harry Shannon, Lee Van Cleef, Robert J. Wilk, and Sheb Woolley. A quick note, I think Dylan and I both always thought that John Wayne starred in this, and yet John Wayne apparently hates this movie.
I was going to say, I wasn't sure if you were going to say, well, John Wayne's in another movie, or John Wayne hates this movie, but either way, both are true. Yeah. Has famously said that this is the most un-American film ever, which for a lot of people would indicate that this movie probably rules. I don't know if I'm quite there, but I think definitely seeing that John Wayne doesn't like it definitely made it more enticing to watch it. I will tell you that.
We'll definitely get into it,
Yeah, as someone who has a little bit more conservative-minded view of like the Western, and I mean, the Western is one of those genres that just inherently people are trying to hold on to. People are trying to conservative like filmmaking, like the Western is it. It's like the real Americana. And so when you go off the grain in terms of the Westerns, like that's the genre where I feel like is the most polarizing when you kind of pivot. Like if you make a comedy that's like a different style of humor, like everyone's like, oh, it's a very different take on a comedy. Interesting. But if you do something that's neo-Western, everyone's like, oh, like not in my genre. Like when Sam Elliott got through a hissy fit over Power of the Dog, it's like
same thing.
Brokeback Mountain, same thing. It's like when you go off kilter, it's very interesting. But we tend to like those types of Westerns on the show. So I'm very interested to hear if Chad likes this one. Chad, what do you think of High Noon?
Well, there was a little bit of a off-road thing there because I mentioned the John Wayne thing, but I didn't finish the synopsis.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. You got an agree. I didn't want to stop you. We'll get into it in a second.
I'm slacking lately.
It's okay. Synopsis: a known criminal threatens to get revenge on a local town sheriff for sending him away and cleaning up the town. The sheriff must make a choice to stay and defend an ungrateful town or leave with his new wife. Based on a short story in the Collier's magazine called The 10 Star by John W. Cunningham. Okay, now we can discuss it.
Yes. And I was going to say, I think Carl Foreman, he is also one of the screenwriters who was blacklisted for suspected communist sympathy. So that is definitely something to note for this film specifically, because he did write it. And I guess maybe that's where a lot of the the McCarthyism, all that comes into play, because a lot of people didn't like this film because they thought it was a very communist view of Americana. But also, I think it's very reflective of the time, and maybe it's just we now have adopted it for a different reason and kind of reevaluated it, maybe, or maybe it was always reevaluated as a commentary for communism. We'll see. But Chad, what now do you think of High Noon?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I understand the criticisms, but maybe it's because I'm not that macho minded a lot of the times. I'm very anti-war. I know you are as well. We always talk about war. We're anti-war. We always diplomacy. We should actually talk out our problems instead of just going and punching someone in the face. And I think this movie is just really freaking interesting. And really, I love reading about how it's a changing of the tide of what a Western is. And I'd love the format of it, the structure where we're waiting for this time, noon, noontime, this guy's coming, and then everything, the whole movie is everything before that. And him or the sheriff, who is apparently like just one of the greatest characters ever of all time. Like even Tony Soprano is like obsessed with him in The Sopranos.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that?
Yes, yes. Tony Soprano, and there's another, I don't know if it's another fictional character or like another kind of similar deal where it's like this kind of not good guy.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting because it's a lot of like these like flawed protagonists, they love High Noon.
Yeah.
I gotta find the names
And
yeah, go ahead.
and it's just really interesting because it's like I just love hearing like
Oh,
seeing
Ronald Reagan was another one. Sorry, he's a real guy. He's a real guy.
That's right.
He loved High Noon. Yeah.
Apparently High Noon was like screened like for record times, like 12 times, and because like Bill Clinton apparently would screen it too,
cool.
and stuff like that. So it was screened like so many times at the White House.
Yeah. I knew it wasn't a fictional character. I was like Tony Soprano, and who was the other one? And it was Ronald Reagan, who may as well be a fictional character because I never got to actually live through his presidency. But
right.
And now he's just Dennis Quaid in my mind. So
yep. What was I talking about?
Fascinating movie.
Yeah. It's definitely fascinating. Where I think just the idea of like the dynamics, just thinking about like the sheriff who cleaned up the town, but then the town doesn't really respect him for it, and the town like doesn't really appreciate what he did, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just kind of like the idea that the guy's coming back to harm him, like the town should support the sheriff, and then to see everyone like either be like afraid, be too young, be just kind of like, hey, we liked it the way it was before, kind of a deal. It's almost like just thinking about like Joe Biden fixing everything, and then people like, nope, we don't want you, kind of a deal. I guess I'm making I don't know if that's a weird
no, that is because I honestly looked at it from the other way where it's like, look, I fixed all this stuff, aren't you grateful? Shouldn't you bow to me? And it's like, we don't have to just support you because you did that, like we didn't ask you to do this type deal. But you make a good point because I think it could work both ways, especially because this is like we kind of talked about and hinted about communism, where people would just kind of like idly stand by and let their friends kind of take the fall, especially Hollywood. A lot of people selling their friends out, a lot of people not having people's backs, not standing up for justice. I think the question is just like, if you put this template up against certain justices, like in the communism case, yes, this is a brilliant commentary about how like we shouldn't just stand idly by. We shouldn't be cowards to, speaking out against what's right. But if you do paint it in the other picture of like, you should be always, there to fight, you shouldn't back down from a fight. That's where the anti-war part of me struggles, because I'm like, honestly, like I've always been told if there's an emergency or a problem, like you evacuate, you leave, you put yourself out of danger. Does it make you a coward? And I think that's the tough thing I'm having with this film is I'm like, looking at it with the context of communism, it's brilliant, but also like looking at it as just like a base level, like, yeah, there's someone coming to like kill people in town, I'm out of there. Like, and maybe that's just me being an audience member, kind of having my own insecurities and reflecting and projecting on this film. But it's also like, I don't think those people should necessarily be blamed for not wanting to fight, because then that's the anti-war thing of like, they're standing up by not standing up. But at the same time, because he's our hero and because these are bad people, now it's making it seem like you're just leaving him out to fend for himself, and that's a bad community. So I think it's just very interesting because I think you can look at it in multiple angles. And I do look at it more in the positive one that you said, and you bring up a great comparison with Joe Biden, where it's like, you're supposed to be a community, you're supposed to be about togetherness, but then when it comes to, danger, it's like every man's for himself, and then all of a sudden it's fakeness, it's cowardice. And I think the reason people did have criticisms at the time, like John Wayne, was because at the end he kind of like steps on his badge, it crushes it, and it's like, no, that's like a very powerful image at the time, and that's why this was such a trend-setting film. But I think at the time people were insulted by it. They're like, how could you? But it's also like, no, when people turn their back on you, you don't owe them anything type deal. This was now for his self-pride to go after the guy. He didn't have to. He could have fled too, but he didn't. But he still gave away his life. He's still leaving anyway, because he's like, I don't owe these people anything because they didn't give me anything. So it's just very interesting. And I love the comparison you brought up, because I was looking at it at all angles, like service value, like, are they really cowards? Like, I would flee, but I'm also like, maybe I wouldn't if it was the right thing to fight for. It really just comes down to like, what is worth fighting for? Who is worth fighting for? And I think that's another thing too, is looking at like when relationships are tested, who do we actually stay loyal to? Who do we try to back? And like, who do we say, oh, you're not important enough, I'm not going to fight for you? And that's kind of the whole sentiment with communism and blacklisting and all that. So that's the thing. I think there's so much fascinating stuff here below the surface.
Yeah.
I just wish I enjoyed watching the film as much as I enjoyed
Mm.
talking about the film and researching it. Because that's the thing. You said you like
Mhm.
read a lot of stuff about it. I read a lot of stuff about it too. And what I was reading was far more interesting than just like watching the movie. And I think that
Mm.
might just be like my Western goggles of like, I'm just not a Western guy. So like it really has
Mm.
to make a big statement for me to fully like embrace it. And there are things I like about it, but it's also one of those things where after I watched it, kind of dissecting it was more fun than like just experiencing it in the moment, if that makes sense. And a lot of films I think
Mm.
are like that, especially in this genre. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I mean that's interesting. I mean, like you talked about it from like a lot of different angles. I think that's kind of like what the movie is and like how you kind of experience the movie where you put yourself in the shoes of the different characters and try and figure out the different perspectives. I mean, because you got his perspective, you got his wife's perspective, you got the town's kind of perspective, you got like different little people in the
Mhm.
town and their whole thing. And I mean, you could be mad at the townspeople or you could be mad at the sheriff. I don't think anybody really sympathizes with the villains
No.
coming in, but a lot of different. It's because it's a big like moral kind of quandary. It's like, what is the right thing to do? Is it okay to just leave? Is it okay to defend the town, or is it okay to defend the town and then leave right after? Kind of a deal. And like, what is the right thing? And I think you had a bit of a struggle. I did too, because I remember thinking about it because I was telling Carrie, I was like, the best thing to happen is that this movie is going to end. I was calling it. This movie's going to end. Everyone's going to think it's going to end with the big shootout, but it's actually going to end where they're going to meet. And before the standoff happens, where there's actually no standoff, um, before the standoff happens, they're actually just going to talk about their
Mm.
differences and come to an agreement. And that's going to be brilliant. That's going to be why everyone talks about High Noon all the time. And I was trying to like think about it that way, and that didn't happen. But I did think the final shootout was pretty entertaining, and I did enjoy watching all the like moral quandary stuff and the conversations, and just this character I just thought was so
Mhm.
interesting, and his approach that I think other people were talking about, like going to the town for help and stuff, because it's like, I guess in like other westerns, like the sheriff wouldn't need the town's help. The sheriff is like the man, like he's just gonna go and bow 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 and like shoot all of them and just be good, kind of deal. I
Yeah.
guess that's what John Wayne would think
Mhm.
a real sheriff man would do, and not take this shit in his town or something like that. But yeah, no, I like the fact that he was more of a utilitarian kind of sheriff, going around and saying like, what do you guys think, like is
Yeah.
this, what should we do,
It's very
kind
democratic in
of a
that way.
deal.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
and then also the fact that this movie has a change of tides of like women characters, where
Mhm.
the woman character for the whole movie is like, we got to go, I'm a Quaker now, my husband and son, or no, my brother and my father were shot. What am I talking about? She just got married. My father and my brother were killed, so now I'm anti-violence, and then she comes and she has to defend her husband. I mean, just how it happens, and it's just like, women apparently didn't do that in movies before this, like they,
Right.
especially in westerns, where they were just
Yeah.
kind of like off to the side. They were affected by it, but they weren't the ones coming and doing the defending and actually helping when none of the other
Right.
townspeople would. And I think that's pretty brilliant writing too.
Yeah. That's the thing.
Changing
It's
the tide.
brilliant. Yeah, it's brilliant either way. It's either you make this anti-violence sentiment, which I think is a brilliant sentiment in a western,
Hmm.
because most westerns at the time were shoot 'em out, shoot 'em up. So even though there is still a
Yeah.
shootout, it's not a big army versus army. It's not these people on horseback, this big brawl like a lot of westerns were. So I like it for that reason. But also like if it's not an anti-violence sentiment, it's still a pro women power, women empowerment message. So either way you spin it, it's just I know like the two of us are very anti-war. So and this wasn't war obviously, but I do like think what you just pitched right there, where they talk about it, and it turns out like all these people were cowards and they ran away, but turns out they weren't going to fight anyway because it's not about that anymore. Like that would have been a really cool shift. But again, like I get why they did it the way they did it for the sake of the
I mean,
narrative.
It's for the sake of the narrative, for the sake of the time, for the sake of the genre.
Right.
It's like you want to change the genre, but you don't want to completely like make it not in that genre anymore. Where it's like, that's kind of like what happens in those movies is that there's a shootout or there's a standoff or something. There's some sort of violence. And I think like, this one works in the way that even though it's not like what I described of like a diplomacy thing in the very end, and there's actual violence there. I mean, I think that's kind of the point is that even if you're like super anti-violence, which everyone should be, but even if you are that way, violence still happens. Even if you're that way, violence still happens. So, it's going to happen. And I think the dread of the high noon coming persists throughout the entire movie, which I think is brilliant. And then it's like, it's going to happen. And maybe, like me, you can think, oh, maybe it won't happen. And that's the twist. That's the brilliant twist.
Yeah.
But it does. And then it's like, well, what are you going to do? We had a whole movie talking about what you're going to do. And then he decides to defend the town still, but he's not going to stay there. It's like, that's the one last gift for y'all, and I'm out.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where like even if you're not fighting, you're fleeing completely. You're not even like helping, because there's a difference between just like I don't feel comfortable fighting this fight, but like what do you need? What can I do? It's kind of like when you want to like support someone's like fundraiser or charity, but you just don't have the means to do so. You share a post because maybe someone else can donate, but you're still doing your part by sharing. You're not completely leaving them for dead. You're not saying, "Oh, I don't have the money, sorry." No, you're saying, "I don't have the money, but like let me post about it." And that's kind of what this movie's saying. It's like you don't have to fight the fight, but like you're just gonna leave altogether and leave this man for dead, basically, because that's where I thought it was going. I thought he was going to die. Honestly, that's why I thought, because I'd heard like this is such a neo-Western, like change the game. I thought he was just going to die, and it was going to be one of those things where like, look what you did. You left this man alone, and now his whole world is over. And honestly, that's kind of where I thought it was going, just because of the communism of it all too. But I think there's even something more powerful to be said about someone who does survive, but then still gives nothing back, because if you're not going to give it, you're not going to receive it either. And I think that's also a good parallel to the communism thing of like, you left me out for dead. Well, guess what? When I do get my career back, if I get my career back, if I write a award-winning movie, you will not be a part of it, But I don't know how many writers were able to bounce back after that. I don't think many were. But we see that all the time, and I don't want to get into cancel culture, obviously, but not even cancel culture, but people who like have fallouts with their career, and if your friends don't have like if an athlete has a really bad slump and like the teammates aren't there to help them, then when they are hitting home runs and shit and the teammates are giving a pat on the back, it just comes across as fake. It's like, where were you when I was at my lowest? If you can't be with me at my lowest, you don't deserve me at my best,
Yeah. Great quote. Yeah.
Now that I'm talking about it, I'm like, oh, okay, I actually get what High Noon's doing. I like it.
And that's one big reason why it's such a good, like, say great, fascinating movie.
Yeah.
And people like talk about it and laud it, and it's like, culturally significant and all that stuff, is because it's just got a lot going on, and it's a lot to talk about. Even if you don't like fully enjoy it overall, hey, we'll get to like at some point in this year we'll get to Citizen Kane, where a lot of people are like, greatest movie ever made, maybe, but a lot of people don't enjoy it like as it's going on. So we'll get that. Blade Runner, that's like another one that people are sometimes on the fence about, like maybe greatest sci-fi movie ever made, but like also kind of dull. I don't know. I didn't find High Noon dull. I actually found it really fascinating, which is very interesting because you and I, Dylan, are very not in the like some people are super Western fans.
Yeah,
and you and I are not as much.
We have our favorites, but I love the Oxbow incident. We both rated No Country for Old Men and There'll Be Blood high.
Yeah.
I mean, we both love Star Wars, but like that's teetering. That's
Yeah.
a Western, but it's got so much other stuff going. But I'm trying to think of other like Westerns we've covered on the show. Like we didn't love Stagecoach, that was one that we were like, it's
Right.
okay. But like looking back, like people are like, it's the greatest Western of all time. What are you talking about? And like I would like to reevaluate. And that's the thing. I think these movies, now that we've talked about them, I would like to go back and like almost maybe do like a picture this Western and just go through all the Westerns that we rated lowly, or not lowly, but like the Westerns that maybe didn't win, that we can like reappraise and reevaluate. Because I think Westerns are the kind of movies that like maybe do take a few viewings to get to like the meat of it. And that's why it's such a successful genre, because a lot of them don't need that deeper subtext. They just need to have these really cool shoot 'em up moments, and then it's entertaining enough. But for the movies that don't have it, like this, where the shooting up is like at the very end, you need to have something else going on. And I think when you're watching it, you don't always piece it together, but after you watch it, you can kind of get the fuller picture and go back and be like, okay, this is what is happening here or there. This is what it's about, especially given the context. And I think if I didn't know the context, I wouldn't like it as much. But knowing the context, knowing the writer was himself blacklisted, I think it definitely adds a lot. And I definitely am glad I finally checked it out. And, not better than Singing in the Rain, though.
And the fact that I feel like there's a lot of Westerns, like, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, like, is one of like the most high regarded like Westerns ever. But it's very long. Yeah, or at least it feels very long, but I think it's like 2.5 hours long. And like this one, it's like 100 minutes. It's like really tight.
Sure. Yeah.
And I mean, because it's also like it's like kind of like in time, like the same. What's the term? Like
it's like a bottle film almost. Not really.
Yeah,
that means like one location, but yeah, it takes place in one day. It's a
exactly.
real life. Yeah, I there is a word for it that neither of us are coming up with.
So it feels like it's almost like in camera, but that's like a different term. It's like you know what I'm saying. It's like in like
I 100% know what you're
taking place all at like one short time, so the movie is short. And I feel like because of that, I feel like it's definitely something easy to really get into. Yeah, I don't know. I just think High Noon is actually pretty great. I love when I can find a Western that I really, really, really love, or at least really, really like, because it's one of those the great unexplored West, one of the final frontier, or not the final frontier, that's space, but one of the last frontiers is the Great West, and it's very unexplored for me. And so it's one of those things that I definitely want to get more into, and I'm getting excited for like Shane and all these other movies we'll get to. And
do we get to The Searchers, or was that not nominated? I don't know. I've heard that one's really good too. I will say I'm not getting a word at all. The internet is not helping me. They're just saying real time.
Yeah, that works. Real time.
Yeah,
real time. It's like 24 or whatever. Like
yes. Or like honestly, this reminded me of a Dardenne brothers film. I don't know if you've seen any of their works, but like I thought of like this movie called 2 Days, 1 Night, where Marion Cotillard is like trying to like appeal something to like a board of executives or whatever, and she goes to like each house and she rings on their bell and is like, hey, will you change your vote from a no to a yes? Almost like 12 Angry Men, but not as intense. That's what this kind of reminded me of. He's going to each person door to door, kind of pitching his case. They say yes, they say no, and it just kind of takes place in that day, and by the end of the day, either she succeeds or she fails, and what are the repercussions? It really is a very interesting style and filmmaking
kind of like a day in the life kind of a thing, like Manchester by the Sea, Perfect Days.
Perfect Days. Perfect Days is so good.
Stuff like that. I still haven't seen it, but I'm excited to.
Yeah, but it is very cool in that sense. And I will say, like, and I'm gonna say it for every one of these movies, because the one thing all these movies has is that it is gorgeous. Like, I think the black and white cinematography is great. I think just the way they do use the space, and like they kind of make the town feel emptier as the movie goes along, because he's losing people as the movie goes along. Like, they really do a great job utilizing the effect of that and the editing of it too. It wins best editing for a reason. Like the idea that like the cutting back and forth between different people and places in the town while making it still feel like the same day, and not trying to escalate or move the action too fast to where it feels like a big jump. It feels like you're still living in the moment with people. So I like all that about it. And the music is gorgeous. Yeah.
Oh my God. I almost forgot. That was that was like our Carrie and I's like favorite part, or one of our favorite parts, was the music. Cause it's like singing about the high noon like thing that's going to happen to like the story or whatever. But like, it was kind of like always in the background, almost like it was like coming from over there, which I thought was like a really interesting
Yeah.
technique to do. But also I thought about the thing just say like the style of this movie is just incredible. But like I think I figured out another reason why people like John Wayne might not have liked this is because thinking about it, you do in westerns, I feel like mostly always end kind of like with a standoff.
Pew pew. Yeah.
Like a duel where they're standing tall and then it's like you draw and you shoot like real quick and then that's the thing. And someone lives, someone dies, but you're standing tall, firm, like right there, like, man, right? And then this guy is like hiding in a barn and like ducking for cover and stuff like that. That's the smart way to do it.
Yeah.
But it's also maybe not the most manly way to conduct yourself when you're getting shot at. So maybe that's another reason why.
I think it's solely an uncomfortability with the change of the genre, and the idea that like how dare he throw down his badge and step on it,
Right.
It's just like there are people even just like 5 years ago who had a problem with like certain criticisms of law enforcement. It's just one of those things where they're like, how dare you? But it's also like maybe we can like make this a commentary about something and change it for the better, but. I never lived in a place with cowboys, so I don't know how common all this occurrences really are. But High Noon, nominated for 7 awards, wins 4. Best Actor for Gary Cooper, 2 music awards, so it wins Best Score and Best Song for The Ballad of High Noon, and Best Film Editing. It's also nominated for Picture, Director for Fred Zinnemann, and Best Writer, Best Writing Screenplay. Not a... God, the segue. No, I saw the title that we're about to segue to, and I was like, how do I? And I was gonna say, oh gosh, I'm gonna do it. It's late. Westerns usually a genre for the bros. I'm not gonna do it. Nope, never mind. I'm gonna try to think of a better one.
Do it.
Okay,
just say it.
But here's a movie for the hoes, Ivanhoe, if you will. Just kidding. I hate that the whole bros before hoes thing. But I hope.
You know what? Bros can watch this movie.
Yeah. When I said hose, I meant like the gardening tools. But also, I hope the women in my life will forgive me for that and not cancel me and like know that I love them and it's an endearing like these are my hoes.
Yeah,
like they're my friends. They're my powerful women in my life.
It's okay. You're also in my AirPods, so Carrie didn't hear what you said. So
good. Yeah, no, I hate. I've never called a woman a hoe, but it was the only way to transition from High Noon to Ivanhoe. Like, how else will you transition?
Her, so.
Like going from like let's go from black and white to color, like that's just too easy. It's hard when the title is a name,
but also like, High Noon was in color, so
High Noon's in color.
Yeah,
was it?
Yeah,
you might have watched a different version. Was it?
Yeah.
Uh-oh. I think you might have watched the wrong version. Did I watch
I watched the wrong? No, wait, it's in black and white. Yes. I don't know why that. What the hell I was?
Maybe
thinking.
you watched it
definitely in black and white.
Maybe you
I watched it. I watched it in black and white.
It's okay.
I don't know what I'm thinking of.
Chad was drinking a High Noon when watching it, so he was getting a little tipsy with all his hoes.
If that isn't a drink, it should be.
And it is a drink. High Noon. It's a
is
seltzer.
It really?
It's like a hard seltzer. So like it's like
I want a
White
High Noon
Claw
right
in a way.
now.
Yeah, it's like a White Claw, but it's got a more beachy vibe. I'd say like the can is a little bit more bright and sunny, whereas White Claw makes me think of a frat. All those frat boys and their hoes. I've said hoes now 3 times. I feel so bad.
There might be a black and white version of Ivanhoe.
Oh God, I never want to see that. Oh my gosh, that's the selling point. We should get an Ivanhoe. We should just talk about it.
I'm at least seeing a still of it that is in black and white, so maybe not.
Yeah. Oh, I got one. We're robbing people of their attention right now. We need to get it back.
There you go.
We need to give it back. We need to give them their precious time back. Let's not be Robin Hoods. Let's give back to the poor viewers who we just stole from. Their 2 minutes of their life they'll never get back for that segue. All right, Ivanhoe, talk about it, Chad.
Ivanhoe, directed by Richard Thorpe, written by Annius McKenzie, Noel Langley, and Marguerite Roberts. Cinematography by Freddie Young. Music by Miklos Rosa. Starring Robert Taylor, Elizabeth Taylor, Joan Taylor, just kidding. George Sanders, Emlyn Williams. I just want to call everybody Taylor now.
I know, right?
Robert Douglas, Finlay Curie, Felix Aylmer, Francis D. Wolfe, Norman Wooland, Basil Sidney, Harold Warrender, Patrick Holt, Sebastian Cabot, John Ruddock, and Michael Brennan. Synopsis: a brave knight must do what he can to see the safe return of his king and reconnect with his father along the way.
Yes.
Based on the novel Ivanhoe by Sir Walter Scott. Don't call him Walter Scott.
Yes,
Sir Walter Scott.
Sir Walter Scott. Who I haven't read a lot of Sir Walter Scott, but he's like a big like swashbuckling kind of like adventure guy, right? Like he did like Rob Roy and Waverly Old Moran. Yeah, I haven't read a lot of his stuff, but he's like an old Scottish writer. Do you want to guess who Robert Taylor was married to? Can you guess?
Liz?
No, actually, no. He was married to Barbara Stanwyck. That was the joke I was making. Robert Taylor and Elizabeth Taylor, no relation. She's actually very young in this. This is one of her first.
Yeah, it was like a huge age gap. No, I'm thinking of High Noon.
You are thinking of High Noon, but Robert Taylor was a little older. I mean, like he's I want to say in his
High Noon was like 50 40s? And 20.
Yeah, I think he was in his 40s during this. But alas, Ivanhoe, Chad. I believe this is the first Robin Hood film we've done on this podcast so far, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. What do you think of this?
I had no idea it was anything related to do with Robin Hood going into it. Mm-hmm. And then when I got into it, I started seeing like clues where when he was looking at the map, and I was like, Sherwood Forest. I was like, is this like a fantasy, like is this like a fictitious like Robin Hood style thing? Like, is Robin Hood gonna show up at some point?
They did.
And then like I Googled it and I was like, Sherwood Forest is real, like it's a real place. Like I thought all that was fiction.
Right.
And then it turns out Prince John, who's the villain in like every Robin Hood story, was a real dude.
Yes.
I think Robin Hood might have been made up.
Yeah, Robin Hood, Sir Robin of Locksley is a fictional character, which is interesting because I think in this movie, I don't even think they refer to him as Robin Hood, but he's just Sir Robin of Locksley. But it's very interesting. Because I mean, people know me, like I love Robin Hood. Like it's the one thing, like this kind of genre is not always my favorite, but Robin Hood movies always get me. I always love Robin Hood, and like
he's just a fascinating character.
Yeah, and it's not even like he's not even a main focus. I think he's like the one who takes him in when Ivanhoe's like badly wounded. But you know, this is still in the universe, and I think that's the thing. I just like this universe. I like how it's very political, but also just like gorgeous colors. That's why when you said there was a black and white version, I'm like, throw it out, because like the color in this thing is just so gorgeous, and I just love like the whole like knights and jousting and kings, and Prince John is always a fun character, and you also get what's his name, George Sanders, doing a cool like evil Robin Hood villain role, which is always fun. This generation's that generation's Alan Rickman, who we talked about as one of the best voices of all time. But did you like this version of it? I mean, that's obviously not Robin Hood proper, but
it was okay. I'm not always into stuff with like kings and knights and round table. Like I'm like not as high on like Game of Thrones as like so many
I definitely got
a
little bit of shades of that in this. Not as like obviously extreme,
but I do play Dungeons and Dragons. I do like Robin Hood Tales and like freaking Shrek.
Shrek.
Stuff like that. Robin Hood shows up in Shrek.
Yeah. We like the Disney one. We've talked about it on your channel for sure.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I definitely love that one. So it is one of those things. And the other one, which I guess we'll cover at some point, that you always talk so highly about, I haven't seen. So
greatest action movie ever made.
I'm really interested to get to it. This one, I found good. I just didn't really think much of it. I feel like just like your standard kind of story of what it's about, what I explained about like him trying to find the king, and there's a little bit of intrigue. He has like a lady that he likes, I guess. I did like seeing like him promote the jester to be like a squire, like that character. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like maybe I wish this kind of were just a Robin Hood movie. I just wanted to watch that instead.
Right. Yeah. I just, it's hard because like I love Robin Hood stories, but like there are some bad ones. Like I hate the Russell Crowe one. I don't like. I haven't even gotten through the Taron Egerton one. Like I mean, I watched a few minutes.
They're trying to do something very different and modern, realistic Robin Hood, and that's not what Robin Hood is.
No, yeah, I don't need the gritty route. Like I love just like if I can get these really like nice baby blue shades and maroons and like these very like welcoming nightly colors and stuff. Like
even
when
even Robin Hood men in tights, fantastic.
Yeah, and I also watched the Kevin Costner one for Frame Rack with Matt, and I liked that one. But there was something. It's almost like the darker you go with this, the less I like it, and that's kind of why I love the 1938 version with Errol Flynn so much. That we'll get to, which is I think the greatest action movie ever made. Like it is just so bountiful and plentiful of color, and there's just so much livelihood. It feels like like when you think of the word swashbuckling, there's like. You almost want to kind of go like this when you say swashbuckling. Like it's got this like almost active way of pronouncing the word that like, you think of a few movies off the top of your head, like Pirates of the Caribbean. It's a swashbuckling adventure. Like, you know what you're getting into. And I feel like that's the best, like the genre is best when serving that kind of sense of camaraderie and adventure and hoorah, that this movie does at times have like the jousting sequence. I really love that where he just takes all them out in a fail swoop. And, whenever they're in like disguise, it's like a reveal of like, haha, I'm Robin Hood. And I like that there's like a little bit of a love triangle as well. I like both of the women a lot, like Elizabeth Taylor. I think Joan Fontaine's great. Both picture this winners at this point. But yeah, I just think it's just a very colorful cast. And the thing is, like, I think the story's where it's lacking. Like, I don't think it's a very interesting story because it is very by the book. But I just think they do a really good job just like making the world very livable and like just making the characters likable. Like I just like watching the characters do their thing. But like, am I going to remember a specific scene or plot point 10 years from now? Probably not. I like have these distinct memories of the animated Disney Robin Hood, the Errol Flynn Robin Hood, even the Russell Crowe Robin Hood, which I don't like. Like I can still like call back some moments. Whereas like this one, it doesn't leave as much of an impression, but I still enjoyed watching it when I was watching it. It's the opposite of High Noon for me, where I didn't love watching High Noon while I was watching it, but then afterwards I had so much to soak on and so much to think about that I like it so much more. Whereas here, I didn't think about it at all after I finished it, but I enjoyed watching it more than I enjoyed watching High Noon, if that makes sense.
It was your blockbuster, like popcorn movie with all the great action and stuff like that. Yeah. And hey, if Ivanhoe can be nominated for Best Picture, why not Thunderbolts asterisk?
Yeah, true. Which by now, when people are watching this, I don't think anyone's going to be calling it that movie anymore. Not even Marvel. But yeah, it's very interesting because like, yeah, like it's still not better than Sing in the Rain, but also like, this is the one where I'm like, I enjoyed it, but also it's the one that gets the least amount of nominations. So I'm like, this probably was the one that would have been subbed out. But at the same time, I enjoyed watching this, and I enjoyed watching some of the others in the slate. So, but again, I don't have a lot to say about it. There's not a lot to build a conversation on. Unless I like certain points.
I like the stuff like that's why I put it in the synopsis. I like the stuff between like him and his father and like that kind of mending and stuff, like the political stuff. I think is kind of interesting when you have like the two like feudings. What was it, like the Normans and the Saxons were going at each other?
Yes.
And then like it kind of made me want to go and like research like the history of the stuff and like why people were making fiction like surrounding a lot of this and like what's real, what's made up. And like Prince John was a real guy. Normans are kind of like Norse people, kind of a deal, just like an offshoot of that or something like that. And trying to learn more. And then maybe I like Westerns, maybe I can get more into like what would you call them, medieval type of films.
Medieval swashbuckling adventures, I guess.
I think I'll really dig like the Robin Hood one, because I just think like that's kind of like a timeless story that they crafted about like the guy who steals from the rich and gives to the poor. I mean, that's what Bernie Sanders is trying to do. So he's Robin Hood. So it's like one of those things where I think that's a timeless story, like classic. I feel like this is more just like fun to watch. It's not like you said, something that's a timeless story that's going to stick with you. The Ivanhoe classic, you know.
Right. Yeah, and I think this is a good primer for the 38 version, even though that's going back in time. Like, I think if you like the aesthetic of this, it's even more colorful, even more impressive set design. If you like the performances and the costumes, like they lean into it even more. There's more charismatic leads. There's more just. I mean, Olivia de Havilland in Robin Hood is probably the most beautiful a person has ever looked on screen. The second most is Joan Fontaine in this movie. Like, it's one of those things where just like just the way they design these worlds, like I can't wait to watch that movie. I hope you like it as much as I do. But this is a very good primer because this is very much not that, but it is like it's a B movie version of it. It feels, you know.
I feel like what I want to do when I watch that Robin Hood from the 30s is I want to buy and play like a flute the entire time I'm watching it. So I might just do that.
But like a pan flute, like a
yeah.
That's cool. So. Yeah, I love that. I mean, there's really not much else to say. I mean, Prince John's a great character, but it's hard coming off of watching Peter Ustinov do Quo Vadis 2 months ago and watch Peter Ustinov voice Prince John in the movie. It's just like we'll never get a Prince John as good as that. But I love how every Robin Hood iteration, Prince John's a wacky motherfucker, you know. So he's, you know, it's a cool characterization. It's just
this was the writer as Quo Vadis, right?
I believe so. One of them, maybe.
Yeah, probably. I think one of them. Yeah, I think it was one of these movies had the same writer.
Noel Langley, who wrote it. There you go. He did Wizard of Oz, actually. And then Marguerite Roberts. I don't know. I'm sure we could figure it out if we really did a deep dive into it.
I'll try to look it up.
I definitely believe you. But yeah, alas.
I will say it was definitely worth talking about this movie just so we can get that great what do you call it?
Segue.
Gosh.
Yeah, I'm not finding anything directly with Quo Vadis right now, but maybe off air we can figure it out and then pipe it back in the edit or in the comments. But Ivanhoe, 3 nominations: picture, music, and cinematography. Doesn't win any of them, which makes sense because when we talk about what did win cinematography, it'll make a little more sense. But let's go from the castles of Scotland and England, and let's go to the steamy French Moulin Rouge, a place we've been before, but this is one without an exclamation point. It's much more subdued Moulin Rouge than we're used to here. But let's talk about Moulin Rouge, Chad. Tell us.
Yeah, this isn't Moulin Rouge on cocaine like the other one.
No, this is Moulin Rouge on absinthe.
Yeah, this is
literally.
This is Moulin Rouge without the exclamation point. But directed by John Huston, written by John Huston, cinematography by Oswald Morris, music by George Auric and William Ingvik, starring Jose Ferrer, Zaza Gabor, Colette Merchant, Suzanne Flawn, Claude Nollier, Catherine Kath, Muriel Smith, Mary Claire, Lee Montague, Theodore Bickle, Peter Cushing, and Christopher Lee. Christopher Lee was in this? I must have missed him. Jesus.
He's probably very young at the point. Yeah, he played George Surratt, who is the painter behind the inspiration of Sunday in the Park with George.
Yes, that's right. And Peter Cushing is the Star Wars guy.
Yes, yes.
I did recognize him when he popped up. I was like, Star Wars.
Yeah. Yes, so, and he's one of those people that every time you see him, like he just looks the same, no matter the decade. Like 20 years later, still the same.
Synopsis: an artist paints what he sees at the Moulin Rouge, while he struggles to find love and happiness despite his troubled past and disability. Based on the novel Moulin Rouge by Pierre Lamour.
Yeah. So yeah, very different, as you said, not cocaine. The Baz Luhrmann version, which the Baz Luhrmann version, we both pretty much, I think we both like that one quite a bit on this show. But I didn't know what to expect going into this because, you know, obviously all we know when we hear Moulin Rouge is that version. But it's kind of interesting that like Moulin Rouge is just a place, you know, kind of like how you were like, oh, Sherwood Forest is just like a place. Like, yeah, the Moulin Rouge is like just a nightclub in Paris. It's just a lot of things that happen there, I guess. Or in France. I don't know if it's in Paris per se. It is in Paris. I was right. But yeah, I'd like to know, Chad, your thoughts on Moulin Rouge, this version.
Can I do the quick? Hold on.
I'm curious what you're googling. Are you going with thesaurus to look for a synonym for not my cup of tea?
No, never mind.
Okay, what are you
Never
gonna
mind.
do?
False thing. I thought I figured out the Ivanhoe Quo Vadis link, but I didn't.
Oh,
But
fair.
yeah, so going to Moulin Rouge. Yeah, I thought this one was fine.
Mm,
Um, it's not one that I really rather enjoyed. Like I hinted at the beginning, I didn't think this one was a very great slate.
mhm.
Um, but I did find some good stuff to it. I like the way they shot everything. The editing, cinematography was really great. The way they showed like his disability, I thought was really interesting. I liked all the cameos and people just kind of popped up. Even I guess if they're not really technically cameos, they kind of felt like one to
Right.
me. And yeah, I just like the story. I felt like because the only note that I really wrote down for this is that this was reminiscent of two movies, um, both movies that we covered on the show. Okay,
I hope one of
Seventh
them's okay.
Seventh Heaven
Okay, yes.
and The Lost Weekend.
Okay, not where I thought you were going, but continue. I want to hear what you would say about it
Oh,
because
and
I
also
do see those
also
similarities.
Moulin Rouge, the
Yes,
other
but
one.
there's another one that I'll get you with later. But
Okay,
talk about
yeah,
those two because I definitely see what you mean for sure, especially
yeah.
visually. Yes.
Yeah, and especially because like the Lost Weekend, like you had like the delirium tremens
Hmm.
stuff that was happening. Definitely alcoholic, kind of a deal, struggling with, romantic stuff, and all that, but also being like very creative, like with artists and writing and whatnot. But just kind of like different characters too. Whatnot. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm struggling because I just feel like there wasn't really much
Hmm.
for me to go off of. It was really just like watching this guy kind of spiral down into
Yeah.
like, suicidal tendencies and stuff. And it just got really sad. And honestly, it didn't really even end on a happy note. At least the Lost Weekend had a little bit of a happy
Right.
note there at the end. And I don't know, maybe because I remember we had the kind of criticisms about that. Maybe this one where it's like, hey, no, it's not going to end happy for you. Maybe that's more of the not
Honest.
satisfying
Yeah.
ending, but yeah, honest,
Hmm.
realistic ending
Yeah.
for some people, maybe.
Yeah. Maybe. I definitely get that comparison for Lost Weekend. Yeah, because it's really not about its story. It's a character piece. Kind of like a lot of these films. Like I feel
Yes.
like Greatest
Yeah.
Show on Earth is not about its story. It's about just the atmosphere. High Noon, it's got a narrative, but it's more about the moral themes than it is about a
Hmm.
story. Even Ivanhoe, I guess that's the most story driven of any of these. Even the next one we're going to talk about, a lot of it's just kind of like a slice of life. And I kind of like that about this film. I think the actual settings, and this is where I'm going to come up with the comparison because this is the biggest inspiration of a certain filmmaker that we love on the show, Bob Fosse, Cabaret. This was a
Mm,
very big
okay.
inspiration. Just and the second it started, I went, "This looks like Cabaret." And what's so cool is like I read so much behind the scenes about how they filmed everything, and like because when you use Technicolor, the colors are so super saturated that he said like the feeling and the look of the film didn't feel like it matched the subject. So he literally like put so much fog and haze and smoke in the room that kind of like diluted the lenses and made them like almost kind of hazy in a way that really helped with the atmosphere. And that's something you see in Cabaret, like all those scenes in the Kit Kat Club, like you can see the smoke just like filling the air, the haze. And
Mm,
that was like a technique that was like invented here. And I know like Scorsese has talked about how like this is a big film that has like inspired him in terms of like a lot of his like crime movies and like these little like kind of spots, like late night spots where these gangsters meet and it's smoky and hazy. Like, and that's something
Taxi
that I think,
driver. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And I think
Hmm.
that's the thing is like nowadays, I think you look at this and we're like, me and you both, because I agree with you. I was just kind of like, "Oh, okay, like I'm watching this guy who's depressed spiral into more depression, and it's making me sad and
Yeah.
making me wish I could watch Donald O'Connor sing "Make Him Laugh" and be cry again that he didn't get nominated. But like it's one of those things where I'm just like, at the time though, like this was revolutionary. It didn't even get a cinematography nomination because I think people were just like perplexed by it and like, can you do that? Like, and I know Technicolor itself, because Technicolor was an actual company. Technicolor was like, you can't do that. That's not allowed. You're making us look bad. Like, that is not Technicolor. If you make this movie the way you want to make it, like, it's gonna make us Technicolor look not legit anymore because you're tampering it. But John Huston was like, trust me, I made Maltese Falcon. I made The African Queen. I made Treasure of the Sierra Madre. I can do this. And I just love that. I love that a seasoned director like kind of held his ground, because you see that with like Martin Scorsese and other people nowadays. For better or worse, they hold their ground. They make the movie they want to make. And that's what was so cool about watching just the theatrical experience of this. Not theatrical because I didn't see it in the theater, but you know what I mean? Like the visual experience of just like knowing that like they were creating a brand new technique of cinematography that had inspired Bob Fosse and Martin Scorsese, and the fact that like it very much fits the tone of the piece, in the fact that like if you are not sleepy by the end of this movie, I think that's both a positive and a negative, because it means the film did a good enough job setting the tone perfectly, but it also means the narrative is not there at all, to where like I think the film's effect is if it lulls you to a sleep by the end. But is that a good movie if it wants to make you take a nap afterwards? Yes and no. And I think this is the one exception where I'm like, the fact that I'm so exhausted and tired and want to go to bed after this is a plus, because they did the effect well, because I feel like I just took absinthe with Jose Ferrer and I'm just like, you know, in that psychedelic place that you were talking about with Lost Weekend. But I think that's why I appreciate this. But still, I was bored. Like, I mean, that's the problem. It's like there's so much great stuff to like soak in, but it's like I telling you about the cinematography was more exciting than watching this movie, and that's just kind of where I'm at. I'm like, oh, like I wish there was just a little bit more, and I think it's because it's such a subdued character and subdued performance that you're just never gonna get it by nature what it is. But like, yeah, I don't know, maybe a few more scenes at the Moulin Rouge with maybe some more dance, like maybe a dance number or two more, just to give us a little bit liveliness, because it is so drab and so like heavy, you know, it feels like you're kind of getting, you know, lulled to sleep by the smoke and haze in the air and being kind of like surrounded and hugged by mist, you know, while you're watching it. But I don't know.
Yeah, like no, I mean I agree. I mean that's why I started like my thoughts on talking about the technicals as well, is because I agree with you. I think like that's like the brilliant part. That's the stuff that, you know, inspired stuff we like even more, like Cabaret and whatnot. But you know, I mean, even though I think we both somewhat have like problems with Baz Luhrmann's Moulin Rouge, like, you know, there's certain things I think are weird and problematic and too hyper. It's like, calm down, God.
Yeah.
But there's also so many freaking great, like, iconic things in that movie that make much better use of the Moulin Rouge, with the iconic like sets of like the windmill and stuff. And I think like that story too is, I feel like, far more interesting as well, because it's about like a, you know, a dying woman. And you know, even though it is kind of like, you know, like the whole thing where he is in a relationship with like a lady of the night, I guess, if you will. And then it's kind of true too here with the Moulin Rouge exclamation point. But this one, you're not getting like great, like Ewan McGregor just belting it. Right. So I don't know. I feel like if you're kind of comparing the two, which is unfair because one came out first,
and they're just totally different stories. Like that's not even a remake of this. It just has the same name. It's like,
and one's based on a book, and I feel like I don't know what the hell the new Moulin Rouge was based off of.
I don't really know. But
they were just like, there's a place, here's a story.
Yeah, it'd be like if they made a movie called The Quiet Man about like a serial killer who like kills you in your sleep, and his name is The Quiet Man. Like, it has nothing to do with Ireland.
Man.
But that's the thing. Like it just has the same name. Like that's the only difference. And it does take place in Paris, obviously. But it is one of those things where like I think, honestly, the downfall of this film is that people will go in just naturally comparing it because of the title, even though it has nothing to do with it aside from the setting. But like that's fair. I mean, like if you make another movie called Nebraska about a corn farm, I'm going to compare it to Nebraska by Alexander Payne, even if it has nothing to do with it, because it's the same name, you know? And I think that's just kind of the unfortunate state that this film is in, even though, you know, John Huston is a master at the craft. Like, it's a masterfully made film. It's just, it affected me positively in the way that, like, it did its job, but I feel like its job was to make me sad and watch this man kind of give up on life, which is sad, you know, but it worked. But I'm also like, I don't enjoy that, you know, and I'm not like, ooh, cinema, you know, I'm just kind of like, oh, cinema, like, damn.
I figured out the movie I'm going to direct now. And
you are? The Quiet Man as the Bye Bye Man?
No. It's going to be called The Grand Budapest Hotel, but it's only going to be okay. It's not going to be a good movie, and it's just going to be about like a guy who hangs out with his dog. And that's
Gosh.
But it takes place at a place similar.
Everyone's gonna expect the Wes Anderson. You know, it's actually funny. I mean, this is gonna come out a few months later than it actually happened. But I saw something online today where people are like trolling Lewis Pullman from Thunderbolts because he rated Grand Budapest Hotel only 3 stars on Letterboxd. I'm like, let the man breathe. That just reminded me of it.
He's also so great in everything he does.
Yeah,
so.
It's like, yeah, I don't know why I said from Thunderbolts. We fully covered Top Gun Maverick on the show, but it's also like he apparently gave like Spider-Verse like 2.5 stars. I'm like, it's his opinion. Let him be. You know, when you star in the highest grossing film of Tom Cruise's career, then you can comment. Sorry, I think Tom Cruise heard me and shuddered.
I also know it's Tom Cruise. You know, your witchcraft. But I also know some people with this way off topic. I know some people who don't like the Spider-Verse movies because it makes them feel dizzy.
Yeah, maybe Lewis Pullman feels dizzy.
Octane. Yeah, maybe he just
and Grand Budapest might be the same deal then, because it is a very chaotic film, even though it's so like perfectly coordinated. Anyway, if you want to check out our 2014 episode, that was a film I used to not like, and I think it's the best movie of 2014 that isn't Whiplash. So there you go. That's a spoiler alert. I ranked it number 2 on that show. But where will I rank Moulin Rouge? We'll have to find out later. Chad, anything else on Moulin Rouge?
I feel like there's stuff we could talk about, but it's just I feel like we were just so underwhelmed by it that but knowing that it inspired Bob Fosse, I think is freaking cool.
Yeah,
because I could totally see that in like the opening dance sequences and all that, and I think a lot of that stuff was interesting to watch.
Yeah,
but just the overall story of it was just
right. It's almost like the idea of just like all these like lost souls being miserable and bored and lonely in this space is like a really good takeaway, but like that's all it is. Like I wish there was a little bit more there, because it is such a subdued performance, and I love the performance. We might talk about it later, but I do think it's well acted. That's the thing. We're watching, like I said at the top of the show, we're watching like some of the greatest directors of all time: Fred Zinnemann, Cecil B. DeMille, John Huston, John Ford. We're watching like their B level or B tier stuff, but even that is like no one could make a movie like Moulin Rouge today visually, I don't think, because like all these movies, I mean, Technicolor is just not used anymore. Like Brutalist reinvented the wheel after like 60 years or whatever last year, but like we very rarely see movies kind of go back and use the old technologies. Everything's so digital nowadays that it's so nice to like just kind of see a movie like this, even if we're not the biggest fans of it, just like knowing that something like this exists and was so ahead of its time. Like it wasn't until the 70s and 80s where they really implemented these techniques, but alas, I'll stay quiet for now. Moulin Rouge, nominated for 7 awards, wins 2. Best Art Direction and Best Costume Design. Doesn't even get a cinematography nomination. They probably just didn't know what they had yet. Best Picture, it's nominated for. It's nominated for Best Director for John Huston, who we'll definitely talk about later on the show at some point, because Maltese Falcon, I think, came out the same year as Citizen Kane. Best Actor for Jose Ferrer, Best Supporting Actress for Colette Marchand, and Best Film Editing. As I said, I'm going to remain quiet for the rest of my thoughts on Moulin Rouge till maybe later when I might bring it up again. But let's talk about The Quiet Man, Chad, and look at that shirt you're wearing. Maybe this film has a little something to do with it. We'll find out later. Chad, tell us about The Quiet Man.
The Quiet Man. Directed by John Ford. Written by Frank S. Nugent. Cinematography by Wynton C. Hoge.
That's right.
Music by Victor Young. Starring John Wayne, Maureen O'Hara, Barry Fitzgerald. Victor. I was going to start laughing like I am now. Victor McLaughlin, Ward Bond, Mildred Natwick, Francis Ford, Arthur Shields, Eileen Crown, Charles B. Fitzsimmons, James Lilburn, Sean McGlory, and Jack McGowran. Synopsis: a native of Ireland returns home after being... I'm trying hard not to do the Irish thing. After being...
What do you mean? Speaking in an Irish accent? You can do it. Go ahead. This is your baby. This is your playground. Play. Have fun.
but then I'll be embarrassed. Native Ireland, America to live on. A native of Ireland returns home after being raised in America to live on his homeland, but he struggles with his troubled past, courting a local woman and growing accustomed to local traditions and customs. Based on the Saturday Evening Post story called "The Quiet Man" by Miriam C. Cooper.
My good old lad, Chad, you did a good job with that. See, I can't do a good Irish. I kind of go more Scottish. I can do Scottish really well, like Brave, Merida, my girl. I got it. But like, I don't know if I could do Irish. But Chad, it's on your shirt. I know it has. This is the last thing that's important about this movie. But how did you feel when that scene came, where it's a storm and she shuts the door and it bursts open and he grabs her and kisses her, and I go, it's the frog scene from E.T. with Elliot. It's the one that E.T.'s watching when he's getting fucking wasted at the house. Like, I was like, oh my god, like, because I guess when we watched E.T., I had no idea that was from The Quiet Man, that iconic scene. And then watching it here, I'm like, I've definitely seen this before. And then like the second they kissed, I was like, holy shit, because I remember the wind and I was like, oh my god. And then I was like, wait, what are the odds that like Greatest Show on Earth, I literally watched that scene of the train crash in The Fabelmans, and I've literally watched the scene from The Quiet Man in E.T. I don't know, did you like pick up on it originally, or did you know The Quiet Man was the film in E.T. or what?
I'm learning about it now, Dylan.
No way. Wait, so you wore that shirt coincidentally?
Yeah.
Whoa!
I saw it today, and I was just like, I'm wearing my ET shirt today.
Holy shit. I thought you fully planned that. That is got to be one of the greatest coincidences of mankind. But now do you know what I'm talking about? Do you know what I'm referencing? Okay.
Yeah. No, I totally did.
Where Elliot grabs the girl and he stands on his friend's back to kiss her. Yeah, that whole moment is The Quiet Girl. Or The Quiet Man.
The Quiet Man. Quiet Girl.
Quiet Girl was that Irish film from a few years ago that got nominated for the Oscar.
Hey, it's still Irish.
Yeah, there you
go. Yeah, no, that's so cool. This movie is iconic in ways. Also stars John Wayne, who's like one of the most iconic stars. We've talked about John Wayne on the show before. Was it just once before?
I think just Stagecoach, and then he was in the Long Voyage Home as well.
No, and he was in freaking don't forget
The Longest Day.
The Alamo.
Oh, The Alamo too. Okay, we covered him a lot then.
Yeah.
The Longest Day, The Alamo.
That's right.
The Long Journey Home, and Stagecoach. This is the 5th John Wayne film we covered, and honestly, I'm finally seeing a little bit of the charm, a little bit of it. Like, because up until now we've been like John Wayne, but I finally get it a little bit more. I'm very glad he didn't do an Irish accent though. I'm glad they were like, this guy's gonna be from America coming home, because I was like,
exactly,
because it would have been atrocious if he had tried it, you know.
Yes. It would have been. It would have been crazy.
Yeah, I just think I don't like. Go ahead. It would have been.
I was gonna say it would have been like Keanu Reeves,
right?
In
Exactly.
Dracula.
Yes, I just feel like I feel like I would.
Or Tom Cruise doing an Irish accent, whatever movie he was in that did the Irish accent.
I just feel like I'm projecting a lot of my hate for John Wayne, the person, on John Wayne, the performer. But like, this is finally where I understand why he was such a drawing presence, even if he's still not, in my opinion, the best actor. But and neither did the Academy agree, because they didn't nominate him for it. But he has won an Academy Award.
It's one of those same things. It's the Marlon Brando of it, where it's like the person versus the great artist versus the were they always great kind of a thing. So so it's a whole
And sometimes they are. Like, I mean, we talked about Sylvester Stallone last month, and that's someone who's like now not looked at as the most fond figure in cinema, but
Rocky, Rambo,
and like we legitimately were like, no, he's like a good actor, even though there are some performances he's given since that have been very like, oh, that's a lie, but that's the same thing with John Ford, I think, or John Wayne. Yeah, exactly. Like John Wayne, if you get him in the right role, I think it works really well. Like, we've seen him in roles where we're just like, like when he tried to put on that fake, I think Long Voyage Home is when he put on like that accent, and we were like, I don't know about this, like the British accent or whatever. But I think like now we're finally getting like what made him the star, because this is also the biggest role we've seen him in of all the films we've seen him do. So I don't know. But what do you think of the movie? I know we talked about E.T. and we talked about John Wayne, but what about the movie itself?
I really liked The Quiet Man, but there were parts where I was like, what?
Yeah.
Kind of a deal. And it was a lot of the parts with like the kind of macho. It's kind of like similar to stuff that we had when we had a little bit of an issue with Rocky for a second,
Mhm.
where you're like, is he being really aggressive with her?
Right. It's
And
like
then
if he had
here,
done one step further, it would have been bad. If it's like he got it right to the line. Yeah.
but then in here in The Quiet Man, he goes that step further where
Right.
he actually throws her on the bed and is very physical with her. Does he
Mhm.
actually hit her at one point?
I don't remember for sure, but
It,
like
it
may as well have. Yeah.
even just throwing her aggressively on the bed where it breaks, uh, it got really crazy. So like that part, I was like, if you didn't have that, I feel like it. And then like towards the end when he like literally like drags her
Mhm.
to like her homestead. So it's like a couple of things like that.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where it's weird towards women with the character, and also just the ideas in Ireland where it's like her brother needs to give her permission to get married, and then John Wayne's like, yeah, but we don't throw that away. We don't really care about that. And they're like, no, this is Ireland. We totally care about that.
Yeah.
And there's no getting around it. It's like law here. Um, and the fact that I found that the character, the main lady character, to be awesome. Like I just love like her fire and her passion and
Mhm.
just like the way she, just like was so like aggressive, and I think she even had to like apologize for like, sorry, I get like a temper and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So like the characters I feel like in this were really really great, and I just kind of like love that story. I love like the kind of like tragic backstory, I guess, for him, where he killed a man boxing, and the way they show that, like going
Yeah.
back to like the boxing thing, just like kind of out of nowhere, just like I just thought it was like really interesting the way they framed a lot of this stuff. um and because they showed him boxing her brother, right? So it's
Yes.
kind of like a not a meta kind of thing, but like a different kind of way to show it, which
Mhm.
was really interesting. Like technique, kind of
Yeah.
felt like some movie we were watching that had like the different kind of like techniques to show the guy's mind, the memory.
Mhm.
Um, shoot, what was the name of that
Oh,
movie?
give me an
And we
actor.
just we
Was it
just
an old?
covered it.
Uh,
Oh, it had from Casablanca, the
Humphrey Bogart.
actress, the
Oh, Ingrid Bergman.
actress.
Oh, Spell. Was it Spellbound or
Yes.
Suspicion? Yeah,
Yeah, that's
Spellbound.
it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Spell
yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Also in the same
there we
slate as The
go.
Lost Weekend, so this is a good parallel. Yeah, yeah.
That's why we're good trivia partners. I'll just
There.
give
Yes.
me a name. Give me
Give me. What do you got?
we'll
Ingrid
figure it
Bergman.
out.
Boom. There you go. Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know. I just found it like a really interesting movie about him coming there. Like he's like, I'm coming home kind of a deal. He doesn't have the accent. He doesn't really know anything about the customs, but
Yeah.
to him, it's home because it's where
Yeah.
he's from. And people are like, oh, it's you. You're back, little Timmy, little quiet man
Yeah.
guy. And, and then to see him kind of like become accepted, I thought was like
Mhm.
really cool.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and obviously the stuff that we talked about, it's icky, but it's also like one of those things where at least I understand why the character is that way. It's like it's not
mhm,
just because John Wayne himself is like this guy who needs to show his masculinity on set, and it's not like John Ford is that way either, because we've seen John Ford make some really empathetic pieces with like Grapes of
mhm,
Wrath and all those films. But I think understanding that he is this guy who like you know killed someone in the ring or whatever, and like lives with that guilt, and probably, I mean, it must stem from a place of rage, but also understanding he's trying to hold back that rage and restrain that rage, but that rage slips out and he doesn't know how to handle it.
yeah,
And it is a really interesting character dynamic there. But I agree with you. I hate that the whole movie's about like the brother and the husband fighting over the woman in a way, but I do love that they
mhm.
give her a voice. They give her some agency. They
Oh
also make
yeah,
her just an entertaining character, and a character that at first you're like, how is she not already married? But then you're also like, I understand why he fell in love with her so soon, because she's also just so
mhm,
lovable. I think that was the thing that I love so much about Ivanhoe is I'm like, there's no more beautiful presence on screen than like Joan Fontaine right now. Like I don't think I've ever seen. I couldn't name 5 more beautiful women on screen. Like it's just like in a film. It's like just one of those things where you just radiate this aura. And she's got the red hair, and I think a lot of it is also the setting. Like I think the setting is a big part of why, like, a lot of these movies work. I mean, even The Greatest Show on Earth, which I loathe, like, I mean, the circus, they really make it feel like you are there at the circus. Like High Noon makes use of the town. Ivanhoe, you feel like you're walking amongst those crowds. And Moulin Rouge, you feel like you're in the place, you know, the Moulin Rouge. And I feel like that's the success of this film as well. It really understands its place. It really understands these people. And I think that's the thing too, is all the supporting characters really feel like they dress the set well as well. Like, I mean, Barry Fitzgerald, I love what he's doing in this movie. Just all these little quirky side characters that have these great accents and just feel like they're like building this picture of the town. Even the brother, who is unlikable, but you like feel like you're not watching an actor. You just feel like you're watching these people in their everyday lives. And that might be why John Wayne's performance isn't as striking to me, because he's the only one I feel like is like the actor. Like I'm like, that's John Wayne as this guy. Whereas everyone else, I almost feel like John Wayne pulled a Nomadland and like stepped on this little village with all these real people. Like I was totally transported to this place, which I think is a testament to all the like little bit supporting characters in this thing. Like I think it just paints the picture of Ireland real well. And it's no surprise that Dan, who was our guest last month, said that you know, he watches this every St. Patrick's Day, because it really does kind of embody what it means to be Irish, and this sense of community and pride for the culture in a way that's also a little silly. You know, it's like these people, their lives are just so different. But it's the same way Banshees of Inisherin was. It's like, this is a very different, unique lifestyle, but it's like cool. It's cool to kind of be transported for 2 hours, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it feels kind of like authentic, and then it doesn't feel like it dives into like stereotypes, but then like also kind of like flirting with that culture of like the fighting Irish, and you know, kind of a deal where towards the end it's like, you know, he's trying to learn how to, you know, fight it out, like fight out your differences, but like don't go too far to where you're actually being problematic or killing someone. And then like here it ends up turning into this like fun kind of like fight at the end or whatever, and everyone's like running towards it. And it's like, hey, father, something's going on or whatever. And he's like fishing, like, oh, they'll figure it out. And it's like, they're fighting. It's this guy and this guy. Why didn't you tell me so? And then everyone has to rush to the square to watch this fight.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know. It's just like, it's a fun sequence and a fun kind of thing, to where at first he kind of just doesn't understand anything that's going on. He's so Americanized. And then he gets there, and then he's just the culture shock of everything, but falling in love with this woman and like wanting to kind of understand the culture, and wanting to, at first he like doesn't give a shit. He's like, your brother's an asshole, so whatever, just don't listen to him.
Yeah, like, I don't need a dowry. And she's like, well, you don't need one, but it's also like, that's our culture. Like that means something to me. It's important to her. Yeah. Even though
really like it's everything that I want. You don't understand the importance of this. So,
like dated gender norms, you know, I hate it when it's like forced, but I'm also like, but if it's her decision, she wants it, then, you know, as long as the society is not dictating for her that she has to do it, if it's her own volition. And that's what I like about this film. It's all her agency. She's like, no, I want this. Like, I know we can get married without one. I want this dowry.
I think this is, even though it does have those problematic things that we talked about, it also suits the character, like you said. And, you know, the fact that she has so much agency, this is a very feminist film in that way. And stuff. And I think also like I was saying, like super, pro culture. Like it doesn't feel like an Americanized film that's like where an Irish person would watch it and go, like if Paul Mescal watched it, you know, and he wouldn't be, I don't know, maybe he would be like, that's not accurate. But maybe. I feel like he probably would watch it and go like, yep.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, yeah, I would love to. That's the one thing I didn't do, was like look at like Irish people's reaction, like authentically, like from Ireland, people's reaction to it. Because I could see how they could be offended maybe by it, but it's also one of those things where
Maybe.
I think they're just such pleasant people too that like this movie does reflect that just how pleasant they are, but how like when they're stubborn, they are stubborn. And it's one of those things where you're either hot or cold. There's no real in between. Like everyone's either like, hey, top of the morning to you, how you doing? And some people are like, you know, like you never get that middle ground. It's the Banshees of Inisherin thing. You're either you're either the guy who's like, oh, I thought we were friends. We're getting a drink at the bar, and then the other guy's just like, I didn't want to talk to you no more. It's like, whoa, like this is extreme. But that's the thing, they live in extremes. But I like that about this. I think it just really has a good understanding. I think this is so funny too that we were talking about High Noon and how like we like how it's a very subdued shootout at the end and how it builds to this climax, but it doesn't feel like this big action epic moment. Yet here we're like it builds up, and then it's the most silly, cartoonish, corny, slapsticky fight of all time. But for this movie, it works. You know, like I love the fight in this. Like it feels cathartic because we're also like so fed up with the two of them bickering and fighting this whole time. And it's really nice to just see them beat each other up. But it's also just like it's cartoonish enough that it doesn't feel like it's actually trying to make like an important statement in the way High Noon is, to where we could just kind of sit back and be like entertained by it. And I kind of like that. I like that this fight functions in a very different way than like if High Noon were to do something like this at the end, it would ruin the movie. And if I think they did what they did in High Noon here, it would have been a different movie as well. You know, I like how they really let loose. Even though there's some deep shit going on in his character, like I love that they just like it's this cartoonish. You know, they go up hills and valleys, and it's amazing.
Yeah, High Noon is really scary and intense at the end, and people actually die. And then at the end of this one, it's like camaraderie and like, you know, fighting to them is like kind of like a different kind of thing. It's like almost like how you know get over your differences, you know, and stuff. Because it's not like you're beating. It's not like Rocky where you're like getting beat to a pulp. It's just like fun, you know, kind of roughhousing kind of a deal.
Right.
I also think it's very charming. We don't get the moment where like it's almost like he's got like that same kind of punch, like where he's about to kill the person, and then at the end he just pats him on the back or something like that instead. We don't have like that kind of moment, but
it just kind of ends and they're like, all right, let's get a drink, you know? Which is interesting. And I do like how it ends with them, you know, being happy together. Like sometimes you need the darker Moulin Rouges, but like if you were watching in order, which I do, like it's nice to go for Moulin Rouge where it's just kind of like, what a bummer, poor guy, like what a sad soul, to just watching this and being like, you know what, this is an uplifting one. And sometimes, you know, sometimes I'd like to be uplifted by Debbie Reynolds singing Good Morning, but if I can't have that, this is a good alternate.
You can.
You know?
That's the good thing, is you can.
I can. Anytime not on this show.
Anytime you're right. Want, though.
You're right. I could literally watch it tonight. I probably will. I don't know. Maybe.
But definitely do it. Yeah. No, but this was a very I mean, there's dark stuff in it, but it was a very sweet, like, rom-com.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what it is. It's rom-com. But it's on an epic scale, too. Like they really make it still feel grand, but they don't make it broad either. Like, that's what I love about it. It really just juggles tone, and I think that's just John Ford's thing. Like, the horizon is never in the freaking middle, and the tone rides the middle in a really nice, satisfying way. So, just whenever I watch
rest in peace, David Lynch.
Oh yes, rest in peace, David Lynch. Whenever I watch a John Ford movie, though, like I'm always looking at where the horizon is because I'm just so obsessed with it now. I'm like, oh my gosh,
boring as shit.
Right. But that's kind of what I do as an active John Ford watcher. And this is, I think, the last John Ford movie we'll cover. Let me rephrase. The last movie he won Best Director for. We will still cover other films from earlier, but this is the latest in the timeline that we will cover for him, I believe. Because he didn't get nominated for Liberty Valance. I don't think The Searchers got a nomination now that I'm looking at it. So, I think the next one we watch, we're definitely going to watch How Green Was My Valley because that beat Citizen Kane. Mm-hmm. So we'll see kind of a showdown because John Huston will be in there with Maltese Falcon. But we're really setting up a good preview for the end of the year here with 41. But spoiler alert, that's how we're going to end this year. But anything else, Chad, on The Quiet Man? And then we'll talk about the upset and rank these things.
You know, I probably, but I just nothing. Wait, let me check my notes. Did I have anything in the notes?
Yes.
I said there was a Lion King moment where they run off to be together from their chaperone and visit a graveyard.
Yes.
And then
you should make that your letterbox review. I love that.
And then I said, no singing in the rain, but there is kissing in the rain.
Yeah, there's a lot of kissing in this rain. A lot of kissing in the rain.
And then I wrote John Wick moment there at the end.
Yes. Yeah, when there's one moment where like I think he kicks him. Like I think the whole time they're fighting, but like there's one moment where I just remember seeing like a leg just like I don't know. I was really impressed with that. Good job.
And then I wrote the narration is funny.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Because it was like the one moment where the narration was like, and then they went, wait, hold on, something's going on over here. And then I was like, what? Can you do that as a narrator? Just
I love
be
that.
like, well, it's almost felt like a Monty Python style narration, like the narrator just gets killed or something in the middle of the narration.
I mean, that's the thing with this movie. It's serious in elements, like, and that's the thing. Like I said, he rides the middle so well. Not the horizon in the middle. That's never in the middle. But he rides the tone in the middle so well, where it's like, you have moments where it's really romantic and ooey gooey love story. You also have like the darker moments of his past that creep in, and it's also when you introduce that element too. It takes a little while before we find that out. But then also, like you said, like it's silly also because it understands its people, it understands the culture. Like it can also be a little farcical as well. And I love that about it because it's all of these things at the same time, but it doesn't contradict, and that's just why, like I said, we're watching the masters of their crafts, and whether or not this is everyone's favorite John Ford movie or not, it's probably not, but it might be mine. Like I really do think it's got a good, just a really good pace, really good, consistent quality of both visuals and just performance and writing. I just think it's like a good amalgamation of everything. I'm trying to look at other John Ford. Oh, I haven't seen The Searchers and I haven't seen Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, but those are the top two on Letterboxd. So maybe I'm yet to find those. Maybe I'm yet to find my favorite John Ford.
Because especially after watching High Noon and like really enjoying that one, I'm like, maybe some of these other Westerns I might really dig.
Yeah. And I really like The Long Voyage Home, which I know you and Carrie weren't crazy about when we all covered that on 1940. But I did really like that one too. So I think I'm just a John Ford guy. I think so. Grapes of Wrath. That's good too. Yeah. Well, it makes sense because I'm a Spielberg guy. But I also hate The Greatest Show on Earth. So I don't know. Maybe I'm not a Spielberg guy. Maybe I like him, but some of his taste.
Somebody clip that. Maybe I'm not a Spielberg guy.
Don't clip that. But I also like it's really interesting because I bet he used just this year as a big time. I bet he saw Quiet Man around the same time he saw Greatest Show on Earth because like Quiet Man he put in ET. So like maybe this year was a very formidable year for him as a young moviegoer. Because even like I don't necessarily know if we could draw any comparisons like Moulin Rouge, but like Ivanhoe has like this kind of feel that a lot of his action movies have. High Noon. I'm sure that he took some stuff from that too. So I don't know. This is a really cool year
Ivanhoe
for Stevie.
feels kind of like Hook in a way.
Yeah, in a lot of ways. Cool. Yeah, and anything else on Quiet Man?
On Spielberg? Oh, on Quiet.
I mean, hey, I'll always talk about Spielberg. Which one most influenced Ready Player One? That's what I want to know. Is there any High Noon in Ready Player One?
I don't know. I know some people think that's one of the worst movies ever. So.
Yeah, I don't think it's one of the worst movies ever. One of the worst movies in his filmography, maybe. But
I like the Shining sequence in it, but
yeah.
Anyway, we don't have to talk about Ready Player One.
No, I'm ready. I'm ready to do a whole Spielberg ranking though after that because I love him. But
we'll do it one day.
We'll do it someday. It's just gonna take a while to get there, but yeah, maybe like High Noon, maybe like Sugarland Express. I haven't seen that. Maybe there's some like with the music. Maybe there's a parallel. I don't know. But that was a Steven Spielberg hour. And A Quiet Man nominated for 7 awards, wins 2, Best Director, the fourth one for John Ford, the most ever for a director. Cinematography, color, and also deserving cinematography for sure. Nominated for picture, supporting actor for Victor McLaglen, writing, sound recording, and art direction, color. So, got my board here. We're gonna rank them first, then we'll talk about the upset, whether we are upset with the film that won. I wonder, and then also what we think if this is a justified upset in terms of the Academy, like if it was an actual upset. Okay, Chad, what is your number 5?
My number 5 is The Greatest Show on Earth.
Yo, same, bro.
I don't think it was.
All right, so there you go. You answer our question. We are both upset at what won, and it is an upset because
it's like a fork in chess where it's attacking 2 different things at once, and we're upset about both of them.
Yes,
or maybe I am.
High Noon was a predicted winner, so it did upset High Noon, and it is upsetting to us. But what is your number 4, my friend?
Moulin Rouge.
Okay. My number 4 is actually, also Moulin Rouge. Okay. And I think this is where we're
Oh,
going to diverge. But yeah, Moulin Rouge is my number 4, as much as I appreciate
I
the
guess. Yeah.
cinematography, which is legendary. But that's all it is. I didn't love the rest. What is your number 3?
Ivanhoe.
Okay. This is where we're diverging because this is where I put High Noon at number 3.
Oh,
I
okay.
know. What is your number 2? I'm sorry.
No, it's not how you feel. Number 2 is The Quiet Man.
Yep. Number 2 is where I have Ivanhoe, which means your
Okay.
number 1 is.
High Noon.
And my number 1 is Quiet Man, which
Wow.
I will tell you, High Noon was even lower before we talked about it, and then talking about it because it was my
Wow.
number 4, and then talking about it
Oh
more, I was
man.
like, I
Okay.
do, I again, I love the conversation behind it. I think it
Yeah.
has a lot of interesting things, and I think when I rewatch it, it will go higher. So I did the appropriate thing, and I bumped it a spot higher. But yeah, Ivanhoe was
Yeah.
my favorite until I finished with Quiet Man. I was like, I think this just has a
Interesting.
little bit more to it. I think I just love the style of Ivanhoe. I just love movies like that, to where I was like,
Yeah.
that's my favorite. Because I'll be honest, this is probably the worst slate we've ever covered in terms of just across the board. Like,
Oh,
I
what
can't
was
think of a
the
slate I've
there was
liked
another
less.
one recently where we were like, this is not a good slate.
Yeah, maybe
Wait,
was it the one we covered with Carly? No, because
or
we
Carly.
had Streetcar in that one, and Place in the Sun. But the other 3 were kind of like on, you
Okay.
know. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, like Quo
But for
Vadis.
here,
Yeah,
my top 2 I really like.
yeah. Here I'm like,
Um
my best film is still not even like I'd probably
so
give like a 6 or 7 out of 10. You know.
but this means that The Quiet Man
It is
is
the best
making it.
picture. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're still giving it a tip of the cap to ET here. Quiet Man is going to be the best picture. It's going to be cool.
Wow.
That and ET are now best picture. So this scene is in 2 best picture winning films here. That's pretty
Mm,
cool. But yeah, I liked it the most. I think it just has the most that I enjoyed of anything. Like the
yeah.
thing with High Noon is I think I will like it a lot more on rewatch. So I don't want to count that out completely.
I hear that.
But
High Noon was probably the only movie in the slate that I was like, I kind of want to watch that again.
right.
But I think it was also because it's so short and
Right. You
tight
can
that I'm
just
like, I
like go
totally
right
could
back to
totally
it.
watch
Yeah.
that again.
No, I
And it's
feel the
one
same
that
way.
what makes me want to get into westerns and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I ranked Quiet Man number 2,
Yeah.
shooing it into our favorite movie, because very much so like A Place in the Sun. Even though it's still a clear number 2 from High Noon for me, I do think like both of those were still like worthy
Yeah.
um, films to win
Mhm.
here. So
Yeah.
very excited for it.
Yeah. But now we're going to get into the acting prizes, which I think is going to be a little interesting because I don't think we're on the same wavelength for our best. So I don't think we're going to be
Mm,
competing with each other much. We might be competing
okay.
for our actress, but I think for actor, I
Mm,
think we're going to get what we want because I think who you're going to pick is not who I would have picked. But I'm very
okay.
interested to find out who you do pick. And I believe you have actor first. So take it away.
All right. Yeah, I'm picking Gary Cooper.
Yeah. That's what I thought you would go with. And good
Yeah.
choice. I think it's a good performance. Yeah.
Yeah. I think like without that performance, and honestly, like there was, I think, at least 2 other people that were considered before him
Hmm.
in the role, and then people thought it was kind of like an odd choice. But I think he does a brilliant job. Like we were talking about like so much of the brilliance of like the character and people who love that character, and you just don't get that with a character that's not kind of super interesting and like changes the game, and like is a sheriff that can come and clean up the town and be that guy, like a Nicholas Angel from Hot Fuzz, who's like the best at their job and cleans up the
Yeah.
town and is not respected for it. But then he can be like empathetic and like go around and like try and figure out where people are, and have this like big moral quandary, but then come back and fight and save the day. I just think like everything he's doing, like physicality but also in the dialogue, is just brilliant. So I don't know, he's just like one of those like all-time characters. I feel like you
Yeah.
got like all the Clint Eastwood ones, and stuff like that. I feel like this is one of the great characters, I feel like.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree with everything you said. I'm excited to see if we get to watch any more Gary Cooper stuff.
Mhm.
Because it's just an actor I'm not as familiar with until now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I wish he's. I don't think he's quite at the level of like John Wayne in terms of like for like name notoriety, but like
Right.
you look at his like in this film like Gary Cooper, I'm like I've definitely heard that name, but yeah, I want to look at more of his stuff.
He's in The Pride of the Yankees.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, which is a movie I
Yeah.
still haven't seen. Shockingly enough,
Oh,
I've seen
don't you
scenes of
keep
it.
mentioning it? You keep mentioning it a lot. I
I
thought you
keep
would have
mentioning
seen
it
it.
because I wanna finally watch it in full, and I
Gotcha.
know Dan's been trying to get me to watch it too. But
Mm.
yeah, Pride of the Yankees. He was in Wings, that's right. But like Wings, it's hard with
Mm.
because it was silent. Yeah, he's in City Streets. Oh my god, he's in so much stuff.
Mhm.
Farewell to Arms. For Who the
Mr.
Bell
Deeds Goes
Tolls,
to
he was in
Town.
that.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
we did see him in that. But again, like that movie just didn't leave as big an impression. Yeah, this is definitely his biggest role, biggest movie. So hopefully we get to see a little bit more of him. But yeah, very worthy winner there. Wins the best actor. So Chad's aligning with the Academy there.
Yeah.
I I was between two, and I knew you wouldn't make it easy for me because I neither of my two were Gary Cooper, but I did want to give a shout out to Jose Ferrer for Moulin Rouge. It's such like a subdued performance, and it works really well for the effect of the film. But it is just such a quiet performance that like it's not my favorite performance. It's one of the best
Mhm.
performances, but like for me, there's a performance that just like stood out amongst the rest, and I think it's because of what I talked about, The Quiet Man. There's just so many great supporting characters that really just build the atmosphere of the town in such a lively way and really give such personality to the film. So I actually went with and we haven't given him an award since all the way back on our second ever episode or third ever episode, 1944, and that is Barry Fitzgerald for The Quiet Man, who we gave an award for Going My Way
Going My Way.
years
Yeah.
ago. I gave him an award for
Yeah,
Going
he
My
had
Way.
the big Paddington 2 moment, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, Barry Fitzgerald, I'm giving him my prize again, just because I think he just has an energy that like it's so Irish, and he's always like there, but not like the focal point. Like he can be absent from the film and like it still runs the same. But the fact that he's there, it's almost like how I felt about Maurice Chevalier and Gigi, where it's like every time he's there, he just kind of livens up the place, and like he acts as a really good like just kind of eye
Yeah.
to the world. I love how every time something dramatic happens, he's always the one to deliver. He's like, she asked me to drive her to the train this morning. Like, sorry. Like, he's just kind of like always there to like deliver the news. And I like Barry Fitzgerald a lot. And I feel like
Yeah.
we won't get to award him much more at all. So I don't know how many other movies he would be in our slates. So love Barry Fitzgerald. I just really enjoy his presence.
Great pick. Yeah.
Thank you. And then for actress, this is one I actually did have a few backups, even though I didn't need them, just because I actually think there are a lot of great acting performances from the women in these slates. But I
Mhm.
am going to go with Maureen O'Hara. I think for both of us, like she was the highlight, like for sure. She really made The Quiet Man, the romance, as great as it was. And really went toe to toe with John Wayne when she needed to, because if she didn't, that movie becomes way more misogynistic than I feel like it
Oh, yeah.
it was, and I think it has to do with the writing, but also the performance on top of it. So Maureen O'Hara, I'm very happy to give her this award. I don't think we've ever awarded her, so that's awesome.
Yeah, Marina O'Hara from Miracle on 34th Street.
Yes.
Doris Walker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that she was my number one pick too.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad that you picked her as well, because
Yes.
I think it's just undeniable. Like
Mm-hmm.
she is one of those characters. Like when we covered you will tell me the actress's name in a second, from Network, who
Yeah, Faye
Dunaway, who crushed it in that movie. And it's just like, and that her, like Haley Steinfeld in Another Western True Grit, just like these performances that are just like women that, take charge, and you just don't really see them, behave that way in a lot of movies because of, I guess, sexism and stuff like that. So to see, them have a lot of agency and stuff. Yeah, this was definitely my favorite performance as well. But my second one was Grace Kelly.
From High Noon. Cool.
High Noon. Yeah, I guess both mine are from High Noon. There you
And
go.
both of mine
And
are from
both of
Quiet
yours
Man.
from
So.
is our top, or well, my top two movies for sure. So of course the performances from them I think are perfect. Yeah, I love her. Just kind of like whole questioning thing. She's also has that dynamic of being like 21, I think, in that
Mm-hmm.
movie, with a 50-year-old guy. So there's that whole dynamic,
Mm.
but then just kind of like the past that she has of violence and not wanting to do violence, but then being like one of like the first like Western films where a woman like fights back and like actually protects
Mm.
her husband, which you just don't see. I think is just incredible to see too. And I know when I can't remember like exactly what you said, but when you're watching it, you're talking like Grace Kelly, man, like just
Yeah,
then
she radiant and looks just like Nicole Kidman.
yeah, that's
It's
right.
it's
That was your comment.
uncanny. But yeah, like, and
Um,
it sucks because we'll never cover like she's like one of Hitchcock's girls, and it's like
yeah,
we'll never
Rear
cover like
Window.
Rear Window, Dial M for Murder,
Mhm.
To Catch a Thief. Is she the woman in Vertigo as well, or no?
No, I don't think
No,
so.
that's not her. But yeah, like it just sucks that we're not gonna get to see more Grace Kelly like in her like real
Kim
heavy hitting.
Novak.
That's who it is. Okay. But
Yeah.
very similar. Like all the blondes are no offense, but he had a type that he cast in
Mm.
his movies. Did you know she was the Princess of Monaco? She married the Prince of
Oh,
Monaco and became Grace
oh, in
Kelly,
real
Grace
life?
Grace
No,
of Monaco. Yeah. So she's literal royalty.
no, didn't know
Cool.
that.
Cool. Until her death. Yeah,
Very
she was the
cool.
Princess of Monaco. Insane. Um,
Yeah,
Yeah, Golden Globe Award, Academy Award, was ranked 13th on the American Film Institute AFI's 25 greatest female stars. So there you go. About time she's
makes
represented here.
sense.
Cool. Well, there you go. We have our picks, our best actors. My best actor joining the Hall of Fame for his second win, Barry Fitzgerald for The Quiet Man. Chad's best actor, Gary Cooper for High Noon. My best actress, Maureen O'Hara for The Quiet Man. Chad's best actress, Grace Kelly for High Noon. And our best picture by commonality and ranking is The Quiet Man. So there is 1952. I almost made a joke and made Jean Hagen my pick for Best Actress, even though I know she's not in any of these 5 movies, because her performance in Singing in the Rain is the best of that year. But I will be kind and just put her on an honorable mention list. I almost did it just to be annoying, but I didn't want to ruin the professionalism of the show. But that's it for 1952. Any other thoughts, Chad? We are upset by this upset. We
Mhm.
did think it was an upset. It actually was. It beat High Noon, which a lot of people thought was the front runner just because of how transcendent it was, even though it had its detractors. But
And it
ultimately, its detractors were too vocal, I guess.
and it took a valuable spot that Singing in the Rain should have had.
Yep,
So
yep,
there
yep,
you
yep.
go.
And it sucks that we
Uh,
both thought the best picture winning film was the worst one, and it's like that's the one that won.
yeah,
Anyway, this is
yeah,
a tough episode for me. I always knew it would be a tough one, but I'm glad I was able to find more positives for all the films because I was going into this being like, fuck all these movies, but not really. But like I was just like, yeah,
right.
really. But I think I found definitely positives in the conversation with High Noon. I do really like Quiet Man. I think Ivanhoe's enjoyable. The other two, Moulin Rouge and cinematography. Like I really do think I can find at least something in every film to at least say, okay, that makes sense. Even Greatest Showrunner, that train sequence is still very impressive. So I'm not
Yeah.
as upset as I was
And
earlier, but
and
yeah,
despite I mean, because I also don't have like the pure animosity that you do
right.
tied to Singing in the Rain because I don't love it on that level, but I
Mhm.
do think it's one of the great movies for sure, especially like musicals and stuff like that. But I do love that, even though I said this was a very disappointing kind of slate overall, I did really like The Quiet Man, and High Noon could end up being just like one of the like I think like the best movies that I think. And I know you said like you're really interested in rewatching it
Yeah,
because you can't stop thinking about it
right.
after watching it, like researching it and stuff too.
Yeah.
So even if you don't love watching in the moment, it's something that grows on you. And I love because it feels like a lot of slates, like each slate kind of has something like this for me, where it's like Streetcar Named Desire I watched for the first time and was like, whoa, this
Yeah.
movie's incredible.
Yeah.
And High Noon was kind of like the same thing. So yeah, I'm excited about a lot of these, even though they were upset by other things.
Yeah, absolutely. But we have to look forward to the next year, which is the year of the upset. But it's also a little unique because, as everyone knows, this is the last episode I'll be doing here in Canada because I'm going to be getting on a boat. So, pending any disaster where like it just is not feasible to record together, which we're hoping will never be the case. But
Mhm.
like the contingency plan is even like finding a studio I can record in on port days if I can't do it on the boat. if anything goes awry, it might be an extra month or two. Like, we will be back. But we are hoping to like continue next month with another episode just from the ocean. But it's also going to be interesting because I'm going to be doing, at least on my Letterboxd, probably not as much on YouTube just because it takes a while to get videos edited, and I just don't know how much time I will have on the boat. But we're doing the retrospective again. I'm going to be watching movies from 2015. I got to download a bunch of them because I won't be able to watch them on Wi-Fi. But yeah, we're going to be doing that retrospective again. So I'm going to be watching all the A24 movies from that year. Going to be watching some of my favorite movies that I missed, or favorite movies I saw, movies I did miss that I want to see. Because that was the year where I really started going to the theaters like by myself. I became like a really active theater goer. Like that year in particular, because I was also one of my first relationships. So like I was like, going to the movies a lot. So I do have a lot of movies I'm fond of from that time. But on here, we always cover 10 years later, the year that the Oscars were. 2015 will be our year for next month. And we got quite a doozy of a slate, which also fits into our year of upsets because it was a very big upset. If anyone doesn't remember, that one all the way on the left there, Spotlight, did win when everyone was predicting The Revenant. A lot of fans wanted Mad Max, but it ended up being Spotlight. And I know this is a very interesting conversation because I know Chad and I have had a little bit of a conversation about this year in particular, especially with other people. So I'm very interested to see after we watch them all in conjunction what we think of the 2015 slate. But here are the movies we'll be covering, the 8 movies we're covering next month as part of that retrospective. It is The Big Short, Bridge of Spies, Brooklyn, Mad Max, Fury Road, The Martian, The Revenant, Room, and Spotlight. So that is the slate. It's a murderer's row. I will tell you right now, looking at those movies, as long as things haven't changed, there's not a bad film in that slate. So we're going from a slate where I think there might be one good one to where like I'm like now like there's not even a bad one. So I really think our rankings could be all over the place too. I don't think there's an easy number one as much as people may say there is. I don't think there is. Maybe Chad disagrees, but I do think also acting. I'm looking at it now. I'm like, I have 3 people I want to win Best Actor. And 2 people I want to win Best Actress already, and I haven't even rewatched them. And I'm like, oof. So it's going to be very tough. But I'm very excited and up for the challenge. Chad, how do you feel about that? 2015.
Yeah, man. I mean, you listed out all those movies. It's like 8 movies, and like I'm not saying like every single one is on the same level.
Right.
There's like, I'm trying to remember. I think there's at least one that I adore above the rest currently. But like rewatching them all, especially with like, Spotlight, and like there was just a new Pope was just elected.
True.
I know that's debate that's dating it a little bit, but
we're actually recording it just so you guys know. We're recording this the day the Pope was chosen. So
yeah,
who knows? And you're getting this episode a month later, so we'll see.
Yeah, and stuff. So yeah, so it's going to be really fascinating to revisit these. Again, 10 years later, and some of them even like I Bridge of Spies, that's like normally like kind of people go like that's like a inferior Spielberg or whatever, and I'm just like I actually kind of like that one. So yeah, so it's really interesting to see these, and I remember it was kind of like the same thing when we did the other retrospective. When we were both like, we kind of really like Birdman, even though there's people that crap on it. So
I love Birdman. Yeah, I don't. It's interesting because it's like lesser Spielberg, but it's like when you make E.T., Raiders, and Jaws, it's like okay, like it's lesser Spielberg, but it's not. But it's not like it's not a bad movie at all.
Like, I mean, shit, dude, I like The Terminal, so.
Right, I haven't even seen The Terminal yet. I should go watch that. Yeah, but I'll also say, Bridge of Spies, famously, a big upset. So not only is this an upset for Best Picture, but this was also a huge upset for supporting actor when Mark Rylance beat Sylvester Stallone, which we may have thoughts on, having just covered Rocky. So that also might be where a lot of the hate for Bridge of Spies comes from. So maybe we'll redeem it,
I see.
or maybe we'll lean into it harder. Maybe we'll be like, how the hell? But we're not covering Creed. But given how big Sinners has been, given the fact that we just covered Rocky last month, maybe I'll watch Creed. I mean, I'll watch it for the retrospective. Maybe we'll chat about Creed for like 2 minutes when we get to Bridge of Spies and just talk about the Mark Rylance, Sylvester Stallone thing. Yeah.
Creed could have been a Best Picture nominee. They could have added. If there was a 9 and 10, I'd throw Creed in there. I'm sure there's another one I love.
Love and Mercy, Straight Outta Compton, Inside Out. Like good movies that year. Good years. Good movies. I know. Jurassic World.
I'm kidding. All right.
Trainwreck, Minions.
We can end the
Good Dinosaur. I can keep going. Shaun the Sheep movie was that year, so there you go.
Oh my God, one of the best animated movies ever.
So see, and that's all I could riddle off on my brain. They're not bad. I got like 6 off the cuff. But thank you all so much for watching this episode. Chad, what do you have to plug?
Yeah, check out Cinema Chad, which is my channel that I do rankings. You Ranking with Me is the show that I do over there. It's the main thing I'm doing. I'm trying to get reviews out and stuff, but just trying to carve out times to sit here and record myself talking about movies when it's not me hanging out with Dylan. Sometimes just is really hard to do. But I'm trying to figure it out. And Carrie and I are also starting our own little series that we recorded something for, but I haven't released yet. I still got to edit and figure out an intro and stuff like that.
By this time in June, do you think it'll have been released?
Maybe. Yeah, it actually might be released already. Okay. So,
but don't say it just in case it hasn't been.
Yeah, I won't.
They'll know what it is if they've seen it.
But yeah, I'm excited for that. So yeah, hopefully big things coming to Cinema Chad soon. Check out Welcome to Primetime is our horror channel. Speaking of Carrie, I do it with my wife Carrie and my buddy Hunter, and we talk horror movies all the time. And we haven't recorded too much lately, but we do have some good stuff on the channel. We did do our horror awards for 2024, which is really fun. Dylan appears in that, which is really cool. And then we also
it was a bloody good time.
Also did like a review of The Substance. And we're going to try out soon like a new format of trying to review movies, because Carrie and I can't always get out to see the best new horror movies all the time. So it's just hard to get a lot of that stuff, seen and recorded at the same time as like, the top reviewers are doing, like where they see the movie, like the Wednesday, like the special screen, or they get a screener and they're like, I've already seen it. It's not out yet. So, until we get to that level.
It's May 8th, and I just saw one of my friends / critics just logged Ballerina, the new John Wick movie, and I'm like, whoa. I didn't even know they were doing critic screenings. The review says embargo, so like they couldn't elaborate, but they fully logged the movie. So I'm just like, I'm jealous. But you'll have probably already seen Ballerina by the time this episode's coming out, so I'm dating this.
Maybe one day we'll get to that level, but you never know. Anyways, check out those channels, and that's it for me, I think.
Yeah, you can find me here at the Dill Pickle Movie Network. I will say it's going to be a lot less videos, obviously, for the rest of the year, just because of the circumstances. It already has been just while I'm in Toronto, but I have some things that have been pre-recorded that are coming up. So stay tuned for that. And I'm going to also hope to keep up the TikTok. Obviously, Kelsey, Chad, Matt, and Zach will also be helping to keep that up while I'm gone, while I can't be posting myself. I'll be posting them a lot. We have a little Google Drive, so I'm excited to see their videos and their ideas run wild and trickle in here. But otherwise, that's it for me. Dylan_Randazzo on most social media, or just search my name. You'll find me somewhere. And if you happen to be sailing on a cruise ship that's owned by Mickey Mouse, you might see me, depending on what boat you're on. So say hi to me if you see me. I'm not shy. I actually am very shy, but I won't be shy if you're just like, I watch you on YouTube. I'll be like, oh my God, I'll be so honored and humble. But thank you all so much, and we'll see you next time for 2015, the year of the upset, the year Sly lost that coveted Oscar to Mark Rylance, and the year that Spotlight took down Mad Max, The Martian, Room, and The Revenant, and many others for Best Picture. We'll see you next time. Bye.
The winner is Cecil B. DeMille.